Call the Anderson County Commissioners Court to order on our regular meeting, April 24th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. Show we do have a quorum. All members are present. Commissioner Mims is not present at this time. He just walked in the door. All right, good. You want to do the invocation?
Yes, sir.
All right. Y'all stand with me. I'm going to ask Commissioner Mims to do the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you please bow your heads? Dear Heavenly Father, we'd like to say thank you, Lord, for allowing us to gather here today. We ask you, Lord Jesus, let the decisions be lifted up and be the decisions that you want for this great county, and ask you to be there with our men and women who are fighting for our freedom. In your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everybody would, just as a reminder, silence your cell phones. Put them on vibrate. All right, first item on the agenda is public comment. I think we got two people signed up.
Yes.
Mr. Cliff Lassiter. I'm sorry?
Mr. Bass said that he's going to be representing the Slocum School on the abatement process, and that he said that it was okay for him to speak at either term. That way he's not limited. He just wanted to voice his concerns for for Slocum's,
During the public hearing?
Well, he signed up for the public just in case he couldn't, but Mr. Bass said it wouldn't be a problem with him talking during the agenda item.
No, we'll have a public hearing, so he's welcome to speak.
Yes, sir, during the public hearing. I'm sorry, yes, sir. So we're going to pass on it.
Okay. All right. All right, Tony Rome, Mr. Rome. And just let me read this real quick, okay? Those signed up to speak in the court will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to make their remarks. So
Okay.
you may proceed,
Good.
Mr. Rome.
All right. My goal, well, I mapped the county 15 years ago, but my goal has always been to get this type of sign on every road that we have in the county.
Yes, sir.
What came up, the reason I'm here, I think it could be as many as 150 roads in the county that don't have a sign at all. And I had given y'all sheets. This particular one has that road has the road to the south of it is labeled with its road number, and the man's driveway to the north is labeled on the Google Maps, and this is the 911 map. Now, whenever I went to Cranford's Gap through Meridian, I went through Hill County, and there's signs on private road. And coming back, saw signs on private roads in Bosque County, Limestone County, Freestone County. There's 3, and this is it has PR and FCR on Freestone County. So the reason I've been given is that your lawyers say you can't put a sign on private roads. But that, to me, going back 50 years to when I took tort law, it says most civil lawsuit injuries alleged wrongdoing, the wrongdoer was negligent. To win a negligence lawsuit, the victim must claim 4 elements. The wrongdoer owed the duty to the victim, just like you do to everybody in the county. You breached your duty, and this breach caused injury, and that victim suffered damage. So think about it. You got people on 150 roads that don't have a sign, and if somebody's life could have been saved by simply having a sign out there, I think it's well worth the amount of money you'd have to spend on a sign. Now, also, I did this for a letter to the editor, but I wanted to run it by y'all. I would hope everybody in the county would write y'all a letter letting you know where their sign is, and you need a sign, and make sure you keep the letter. And if something happens that could have been avoided had they had good sign on the road, then to me, they would have right to sue y'all. And so, you need to run this, or I'd like for you to run this by your attorney to see if you're gonna get sued on one hand for putting a sign up, but you got a million times more chance of getting sued for not putting a sign up. So, to me, it's, of course, I'm a son of a sharecropper, and we didn't really know what discrimination was, but to me, it's, you're discriminating against the poor people in the county by not putting signs up. Everybody has a right to have the same sign that they have in cities, so, thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, Your Honor, if I may?
We're not gonna get into a discussion. If you wanna clarify something, what I was gonna clarify is, I think the commissioners looked into it. We can't use public funds. This is for information. This is not, we're not gonna get into a discussion back and forth, okay? But you've been to the court several times, and I want you to understand you're not being ignored. And you make a valid point for emergency services, but we cannot violate the law and use public funds to do something on private property. And I have to leave it at that. We're not gonna get into discussion, Mr.
Well, let me.
No, we're not gonna get into
You drive
this.
between Oakwood and
We're not
the
gonna get
river,
into
and you'll see
discussion.
3 on public funds.
Because I'm not, if we get into discussion, it violates Open Meetings Act, okay?
I'd like this
I
on the
just
agenda.
felt like, out of respect, you needed a little bit of an answer, okay? Okay, for clarification.
Thank you,
sir.
Judge.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. The consent agenda is to be self-explanatory, will be enacted with one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. However, any consent agenda item may be removed for individual consideration pursuant to a request by a Commissioners Court member. We have budget amendments number 42 and 43. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we have, consider approving the bills, approve utilities crossing county roads, and I think, does everybody have a list on those?
Yes,
All right, can we submit that list to the clerk?
without reading them in.
Is somebody where you can just read the road numbers?
I do have the road numbers on, and I've submitted the maps to the clerk, so you need to
You
read
want,
them.
just for the record, would you read the road numbers?
Yes, I'm gonna read,
For all
precinct
four
one.
precincts?
Well, I didn't get theirs,
We
but I
each
got
have-
1 and 2, and they can do
Okay.
theirs.
Yes.
So for precinct 1, it's gonna be for Charter Spectrum, it's gonna be the fiber company starting to run the fiber. Precinct 1, it's gonna be from ACR 137 and at FM 322, ACR 147, east of 19 and US 287, ACR 386 at ACR 199. That'll complete precinct 1. You want me to read them? Go ahead.
It didn't matter if you want to. or I-
Precinct 2 will be FM 321, west of ACR 2611. Then ACR 2133, west of FM 90. ACR 2303, north of 2301. FM 321, west of ACR 2611. And ACR 2501, north of FM 321. That'll complete precinct 1 and 2.
Okay.
For precinct 3, same thing for Spectrum. I have one at 436 at County Road 435. I have one at County Road 386 at County Road 199, and one at County Road 441 at County Road 444. Yeah.
Precinct 4 for Charter, I have one at 414, 425, and 404 north of 448. For Entrust, I have one crossing 422. And for Spectrum, I have 4663, 470, and 468.
Okay. So that's all of the roads?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, on the consent agenda is the treasurer's report, sheriff's report, county clerk's report, tax assessor collector's report, district attorney's report, auditor's report, district clerk's report, IT report, JP reports, constable reports, veterans report, collections report, historical commission reports. We have minutes for the regular meeting on March the 27th, 2023, and a special meeting on March the 30th, 2023. And I believe we got to
Swear.
be sworn to approve the treasurer's report. Mr. Staples.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will register and report to the best of your ability this correct?
I do.
Can I pass that down where everybody can sign that real quick?
Thank you, Judge.
Trying to be better.
Yes.
I forgot a couple of times. While we're doing that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill, all in favor say aye.
Judge, I got, on the discussion part, we have one bill on there that we're gonna discuss on agenda item number 19.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to pull that bill till we get to 19 and discuss that? Because that's what it says on the agenda, to discuss, paying that bill.
I mean, it's in the packet, but if you want,
Well, I'll do this, I'll pull it.
accept that
Yeah,
one.
I'm just
And
saying,
accept
we're
that
gonna.
one.
The reason I put it on individual is because of the discussion last time, so I
Yeah.
put it on individual.
Well, I just didn't know if we approved it now, if there's any sense in discussing it, so we're gonna
It's up-
discuss it at
It's up to
19.
the court, but if he wants to
That's up
pull
to
it
y'all.
in the motion.
Yeah, if we're gonna discuss it at 19, that'll be fine, we can pull it and discuss it at 19.
All right. I'll pull that one and discuss it at 19. Okay. All right, other than, that one bill for Flair, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Oh, wait, you made a motion?
Rashad did, and I second.
All right, I apologize. All right, Commissioner Mims, made the motion, second by Commissioner Hill, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, so ordered. Okay,
On the consent agenda, Your Honor,
yes, sir.
one of the things which I know we can't get into and go on, but our counsel is here and he's gonna prepare us a, letter so we can get it to the press stating about, some of the opinions that was voiced earlier in the earlier comments. We had that discussion before court. Thank you, Mr. Bass.
All right, next item on the agenda is to, we need to recess from, our regular session and convene in a public hearing on the creation of a reinvestment zone to be known as the Anderson County Reinvestment Zone Skull Creek for purposes of tax abatement to provide economic development within the county. So we'll convene into the public hearing at this time. Mr. Bass, you wish to make a presentation?
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. We have an application for consideration of a tax abatement agreement by Skull Creek Solar LLC. This would be for approximately a 136 megawatt installation. There is no battery attached to that. The project is is Tammy here? Tammy Biak is here. She will address any technical issues that you might have. This project would be commissioned and built out in the, let me find the map.
Massey Lake area, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And it's in the, looks like it to be in the Cayuga School District. There are 10 parcels of land. There's approximately 1,000 acres, a little over 1,200 or so. And it's intended to be designed for utility-grade electrical power. The first order of business is to consider the creation of a reinvestment zone to be known in Skull Creek. And that would require an affirmative vote. I will tell you that I've looked at the application and I believe that it is consistent with your guidelines and criteria that you adopted earlier. The Skull Creek project would be built within that zone It's an area, a zone that would entitle the parcels that have solar panels on them to be tax benefit, a reduced tax rate. We would receive payments under that project as a pilot payment in lieu of taxes. The pilot payments would be on the order of $1,000, $1,096.78 per megawatt. That would result in about $109,000 a year payment to the county for 10 years. At the end of that 10-year period, it goes on the tax rolls at full value and would stay that way as long as the project is out in the field. And it does have a 15-year, at least, life expectancy. Any questions about that?
As far as the abatement goes, looking at some of the other ones with, like with Slocum School and all, they had a little larger when their actual startup year, you know, and then it went to a, you know, abated process of $50,000 a year. But I mean, is that, wouldn't us to be able to take into consideration maybe a upfront lump payment, would that not be something we could discuss?
Well, there's a pot of money, and you have some discretion, but the school districts are set up under a separate chapter of the tax code, and it specifically calls for them to have an upfront payment. So we don't have that in our statute. That's not to say that we couldn't ask for some portion up front, but most of these, the whole idea of a pilot payment or a abatement agreement is to get a low-end entrance cost, you might say, and then to catch it up in the latter part of the life of the project. So I've always took the position that it's really, you're gonna get more money at the end if you'll be patient.
Is the projection for this one going in, is it somewhere around, do you know what I mean, this is a different one than the one I was talking about, do you know what that?
It'll
This
pay
one's gonna
about-
be just KU ISD alone.
That's right.
It starts out at 151, and then 32 is worth 30,000.
Yes. And the school district's gonna benefit the most of it at the moment, but I mean, I think it's needed. I think they really need it out there, and I think it'd be
Because
beneficial.
it's not abated for the school district. Not like it is for the county.
Well, your abatement agreement is just for the county taxes.
Correct.
That's correct.
Tammy, do you have anything to add?
So it is under a school abatement.
Will she have to come to the podium? Yes. Please come forward.
To answer your question, yes, sir. It did receive a Chapter 313 agreement, so that it did receive a limitation agreement.
Okay, it's kind of hard.
Sorry. I'm short.
It kind of echoes in here a little bit.
I'm short.
It's okay. So,
Go ahead.
kind of describe just a little bit how that's gonna work for the school.
Yes.
Okay.
So how that works for the school is that for the M&O tax only, they will pay on the limitation only, and everything, any CapEx that is above that limitation becomes exempt. They pay the full INS rate during the 10-year term.
Okay.
Then they also have a revenue loss to make certain that the school stays whole. And then they also have supplemental payments. So each year, it's based on how many head count on a daily average times a certain amount, and that's what they get. So the minimum is $50,000 a year. So that the school will also get the supplemental payment. So obviously, all that money is outside of the additional state aid that they will get as well, because the only assets on the rolls will be the $30 million.
Yes.
So it's a great benefit for the school district.
Big time, big time.
So it's a new revenue stream for the school district?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you have a question?
Oh, no, sir, I was just. Now, you do know that is precinct 2, so that's why I'm all excited about the project coming in, helping out precinct 2. Well, all of Anderson County, but school districts and areas in precinct 2, so.
I do, I have to go.
All right, the first order of business would be the creation of the reinvestment zone.
Okay, but since we're in the hearing though. I need to
Okay.
Give
The
public
next,
an opportunity to-
The next item of business after you create the reinvestment zone, there is a road use agreement that also is part of the project. The road use agreement is designed to protect the county from any degradation of its roads due to the project. There will be heavy truck traffic. They won't be that heavily loaded except for maybe a few isolated trucks that have heavy loads of transformers and the like, but there will be a lot of trucks. They will be bringing in 18-wheelers loaded with a container. The container will have solar panels in it, and there will be several dozens of trucks that will be involved in the project. The agreement generally speaks to what they do before the project. Essentially, they would designate the roads they want to use for ingress and egress. They would consult with the commissioner for that precinct or the court, and they would determine whether any of those roads need to be improved ahead of time to handle the loading. They would be required to put up a cash bond, if you would, a cash payment that would be held in trust by the treasurer of $100,000. That should be considered to be sort of a contingency fund, that if there are conditions that arise on the road that are not promptly remediated by the developer, the county would be entitled to give notice of those. And if there's still no action, then they would, the county can pull down that cash bond for immediate repairs, and they would be required to replenish that fund. The loading on the road, for purposes of the road use agreement, any truck that is under 36,000 pounds per axle continues to be able to use the road. Anything over that, or 54,000 gross pounds, they would be considered a heavy load that would be limited to those designated routes. The developer can go in and use the county roads. You're giving them permission to use those roads. But if they are going to widen the road or change the course of a road, they have to get the consent of the adjacent landowners. There are provisions in the agreement to indemnify the county for any damages they do over long term, that any culverts or bridges in the area would have to be protected, and there's a provision that says that if the existing loading of the bridge exceeds the design parameters, that they would have to take remedial action to armor the bridge or find an alternative route to get to where they need to go. The project calls for full insurance during the project, that would name the county as an additional insured. And it's a pretty comprehensive agreement that we've developed over time, so I think it would protect you under virtually all
On the
circumstances.
load, carry of those bridges, the majority of ours are 29,000 tons. I mean, ain't that correct? 2,900 tons, but they, that shouldn't be a problem getting from one side to the other. But on that, when they make these repairs to these roads and these cave-ins or these culverts, they start defaulting, do we go back to them for that assistance and the county repair it, they reimburse us, or are we gonna have their contractors fixing these roads that they're using?
You can do it either way. I would expect you would want them to do the work.
Want them, yes. And that's what I kind of had discussed when, we had some of our earlier meetings. They had stated that if there was any provisions that need to be made, because there is one low zone, what we had made a cattle guard bridge, because it's a big, drainage coming right there off of the Farm Market Road, and they have to go over, and at the end of the bridge, it's, which it was a steel tank car, and we welded we had the cattle guard came, brought in place and extended out and welded onto the end, because there is cattle on both pieces of property they're gonna use on both sides of the Farm Market Road.
Well, all of that would be done in pre-construction conferences, and you would reach all of those agreements. Of course, as something comes up that you didn't anticipate, then you would want to work that out with them.
We'll have that opportunity then to
Yeah.
sit down with them
Yes.
when we route them into these areas where they're going. So,
Right. The final document that you'll be executing, assuming you decide to go forward, is a tax abatement agreement. That agreement is fairly specific. It covers this project. It requires, again, fairly detailed provisions regarding how to go about doing the installation of the project. Solar is not as labor intensive or as technical, I guess you would say, as the wind projects, but it is one that they would make every effort to hire as much as they could from local merchants, vendors, the like. If it is a product or a service that could be had at equal quality or equal expertise as that they will bring in their own crews. The project calls for an abatement that is based upon a pilot payment. We arrive at the pilot payment by use of a formula that is, takes quite a bit of math to crunch the numbers, but it takes into account roughly a 70% tax abatement. It then generates a certain sum of money over a 10-year period. You then divide that by 10 and then divide it again by the size of the project to get a per megawatt size payment. And then you multiply that by the per each project. So at 136, the project, and we've taken into account a minimum and a maximum. It would pay you at least $109,678 and 11 cents per year. It could go upward from that considerably, but then anything over a 75% minimum investment capital cost would pay you that same rate. So it's based on the maximum the rate is, but then you reserve payment of those sums until the installed capacity of the project is known. There are things beyond the control of the developer that regulate that somewhat. ERCOT has to approve a certain amount of input to the grid, and so sometimes they are not able to build the full stated capacity, but they would get credit for the installed cost. We would know that before the end of the project, before it goes what is known as COD, or the commencement of commercial operations. So there would be a certification process whereby they would certify what their installed capacity is, and then that would determine the payment. Okay?
Jim, to go back, Bob, to go back on that, the provisions they've got on protection, did they have anything in there on the fire suppression?
Yes, sir. There's quite an extensive fire suppression. There's not so much where there's not a battery storage.
Yes, sir.
The panels themselves rarely, I suppose they could, but I don't know of any where they've caught fire.
And we just have no electrical fire equipment, you know, that
Right.
was,
They would have a duty to periodically train your volunteer fire departments that would be responding to that call on how to fight that particular kind of fire.
And provide equipment.
yeah, provide
And,
equipment.
and provide any
Requires phone.
required equipment. The fittings and everything would have to be stored there on site and be available to a volunteer fire department. That answer your question?
Yes, sir, thank you.
There is a provision.
Wasn't there some kind of donation to the fire department? once
There
they-
is a donation requirement that they're required to pay. I'm trying to remember the amount of the donation. But it's an annual payment to the volunteer fire department to defray costs that they might have in being prepared to fight those types of fires.
But for the public's information, my understanding is by doing an abatement, they get an abatement, but at the same time, we get to have restrictions on the company. If we don't do an abatement, essentially, we don't have any authority with regard to the road agreements and things like that. Is that correct?
That's essentially correct. The roads are public, and so they can use those roads. And we can't unduly restrict their use. So the tax abatement agreement actually protects you in more ways than one. They give you a benefit, and they give you the protections of the abatement agreement, the road use agreement, and so forth. Any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, I need to hear public comment then.
Yep.
Does anybody wish to speak either in favor of or against or? Yes, sir. When you come up, if you'll please give your name for the record.
Howdy, my name is Tyson Taylor. I'm with Skull Creek Solar
Yes, sir.
in this case. I just thank you so much for your consideration of our project. I know it's been a long path. Mr. Mims, we met quite a while back. This is still getting going. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or, give some informal updates at some point after the hearing if you're interested. Our project's moving along really well. We've enjoyed the support of the school district and the local residents over in the county, and we're pleased to be here and looking forward to your support as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, at this time, I'll close the public hearing. And reconvene back into regular session. Going to item number 7. Consider and take possible action to create a reinvestment zone for purposes of tax abatement to provide economic development within the county in accordance with Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. Said reinvestment zone to be known as Anderson County Reinvestment Zone Skull Creek and located as described and depicted in the application by tax abatement agreement and in the public notices published in accordance with Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So ordered. Item number 8 is consider and take possible action regarding road use agreement between Anderson County and Skull Creek Solar LLC to address possible degradation of any county-maintained roads in the construction, operation, or maintenance of the Anderson County Reinvestment Zone Skull Creek. I'll entertain a motion to approve the road agreement.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chapin. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So ordered. Item number 9 is consider and take possible action regarding the adoption of a tax abatement agreement with Skull Creek Solar LLC pursuant to Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So ordered. or at this time, we'll recess from regular session and convene in a public hearing on the creation of a reinvestment zone to be known as Anderson County Reinvestment Zone Natchez for purposes of tax abatement to provide economic development within the county. Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay.
I have a set of documents for you to sign. You can sign them now or at the end of the meeting, but there are 3 sets of documents you need to sign off of. Each one is marked where you sign.
Okay.
I'll deliver those to you, Judge.
All right. Thank you. We got a long meeting, so I'll probably do this at the end of the meeting, though.
All right, that's fine. Gentlemen, this is a tax abatement agreement application by another solar project, Natchez Solar LLC. This project is a dual project. It would provide for approximately 200 megawatts of electrical generation capacity and approximately 100 megawatts of battery storage. The project would be in the sort of central to the county. There is a map included in the project. This involves 14 parcels of land with approximately 1,500 total acreage. The project would also have a road use agreement and initially the creation of a reinvestment zone. And I think I've already covered what each of those documents does, but the reinvestment zone would limit the application of the tax abatement agreement to those properties that are within that zone. The road use agreement would protect the county against degradation of roads, and then the tax abatement agreement itself would provide the general framework in which that tax abatement would be administered. The tax abatement agreement calls for a pilot payment. In this case, there is a bifurcation, if you would, of how much you would receive for solar generation and how much you would receive for battery storage. You would receive approximately $1,233.15 per year, or per megawatt, $138,728.92 on annual payments. And then for each megawatt over the stated minimum capacity, which is 112 megawatts of installed generation capacity, you would receive $1,233.15 per megawatt. In addition to that, you would receive, for a minimum, call it, I'm not going to use the word guarantee, but a minimum investment of 56 megawatts of battery capacity, you would receive $97,946.53. Combined, you're making a little better than $230,000 a year for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years, it comes off of the abatement process, goes on the tax rolls at full value, and it continues for the life of the project.
Is there an estimate, just like a minimum or maximum, or
The minimum,
what we would receive over the 10-year period?
yes, sir.
230.
Well, it's 138 plus 97, so it's
2.5 million, less
230, something like that.
Yes.
Annually.
per
There,
year.
and the capacity is a ballpark. We're trying to predict as best we can how much capacity the state will allow in addition to how much capacity do they build into the project. I expect that if this project goes forward, it will be closer to the 200 megawatts, for example. But we won't know that until
They'll set up to
closer.
make all they can, but they got it, whatever the state allows them to dump, I guess, on the grid, basically what it is.
Yeah, they won't build more than the state will allow them.
Whatever they can provide.
And the state is a little, they're struggling to keep up with the needs of the state and the ability of the grid to bear the demand. So I think the state is eager to see solar and wind and geothermal and whatever alternatives there are come online, but they worry about making sure that the grid is stable. This project is a little bit unique in that it has battery capacity, which helps stabilize the grid. It means on the days that they do not generate electrical capacity to their full capability, the batteries would make that up for a short period of time. Now, this agreement has the same sorts of protection in it as the other does. There are requirements for local spending. There are 45 days before they reach COD, they would give to you a full list of all of the permits that they've been required to obtain from state regulators, federal regulators. They have to come up with emergency response plan for any emergencies that they have, particularly for the batteries. There are needs for a more elaborate emergency response plan. You do have rights of inspection that allow a county designee to go on site to make sure that, I'm not sure exactly what all you would require, but just to make sure that the project's being built according to plans. There is a provision in this agreement for a charitable donation of $1,500 to go to each fire department most likely to respond to a fire. And then there's, in addition to that, they would do annual training to that county or volunteer fire department to address the unique nature of
They would
those.
still have the same on-site, the equipment it takes.
They would have the
and train them
equipment
to do it.
on site.
Not something they'd all have to buy into to try to do it. They'll be able to have access to it.
Right,
Yes, sir.
right. The should there be an assignment, I did not mention this in the earlier agreement, but if there is an assignment, they have to seek your consent beforehand unless there are certain conditions made. A publicly traded company over 10 million would not need to go through an approval process, but otherwise you have the right to consent to an assignment. You have the ability to seek attorney's fees if you need to do due diligence on the assignee. And I believe that generally covers everything on the tax abatement agreement. Any questions about that project?
So this NHSS is going to be the one that's going to impact our Slocum district.
It is, Your Honor.
Would it be time for him to, or Mr. Laster, our superintendent wanted to just propose at the court how it impacts our district?
Once the court gets there, has any discussion,
Right.
then I'll open the floor.
Appreciate
for other
Tammy,
people.
did you have anything to add?
I didn't see.
Actually, this is Palestine ISD,
Yes, sir.
potentially Slocum ISD, Natchez
Natchez.
ISD, Trinity Valley Community College. So all those we've sent notices to.
Right.
And, so that, you know, if they wanted to be here, make comment, or at least make sure that they were aware.
Right.
All right.
Any other questions from the court?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right.
I'll open the floor for anybody wishing to speak for or against, in the public hearing. Mr. Lassiter, just for the record, if you'll,
Cliff Lassiter, Superintendent at Slocum ISD.
good to have you.
Thank you, man, for having me this morning. We do have an approved Chapter 313 agreement for this project, and it's a really big deal for Slocum ISD, not just for our school, but also for our taxpayers. Over the 10 years that we'll have the abatement, we'll actually receive about an extra $5.75 million. That's a lot of money for a school our size, but that's also money that goes back into this community. It'll allow us to hire that extra teacher or two that we haven't been able to hire over the years, to raise salaries to try to get teachers, because just this past year, we were short 2 teachers. We couldn't actually hire 2 positions. So also, if we decide to build that animal science facility that we want, that money goes into construction, and that affects us. But we also looked at things like during the construction phase, how much money that's going to generate for our local economy, restaurants, hotels, for all those people that are building things. So that's things that our board considered. But for us to receive that, they have to build it. And you providing them an abatement is just that much more likely that they would actually build this solar facility. So that's information. I'd be glad to answer any of the questions. Let me tell you this as well. Something that we don't often consider is the INS. We do have a bond because we built our new high school, completed back in 2016. There is no abatement for the interest in sinking, so they pay full value, which allows us to, number one, probably pay off our bond a little earlier and reduce the INS tax rate for our taxpayers in a age when taxes are going up and up. So it's a really good deal for our constituents. At our current tax rate, we could finish paying off that bond in about 3 years. So again, it's kind of a win-win for our district. And we considered all those things over a period of several months. We started this process back in March of 2022, and we finished our agreement in December of 2022.
Yeah, I picked up on that when Bob was talking about the INS.
Well, you brought some good points to the table that I don't think a lot of people understand, and that's why it's big for our local school districts.
Yeah, it really is. When you look at school funding, no matter what your M&O rate is, you're going to get a set amount from the state. But to inject $5.75 million over 10 years, that's huge for
Yes, sir.
our school district, for our community. And basically, when you're able to pay your people more, that money goes into the local economy. And most of our people live right here in Anderson County. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
what you do
Mr.
for the
Appreciate
kids too. And just for the public, this is gonna be located just adjacent to the Alcoa plant in that area, just east of the Alcoa plant. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Robert Schleider with Nexus Solar, and just wanted to thank Anderson County for your consideration of our Nexus Solar project. We think it'd be great for the community and the county and the state of Texas, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Or at this time, I'll close the public hearing and reconvene back into regular session and move to item number 12. Consider to take possible action to create a reinvestment zone for purposes of tax abatement to provide economic development within the county in accordance with Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. Said reinvestment zone to be known as the Anderson County Reinvestment Zone Natchez, and located as described and depicted in the application. A tax abatement agreement and in the public notices published in accordance with Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. I'll entertain a motion to approve the reinvestment zone.
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Item number 13 is consider and take possible action regarding a road use agreement between Anderson County and Natchez Solar LLC to address possible degradation of any county-maintained roads in the construction, operation, or maintenance of the Anderson County Reinvestment Zone Natchez. I'll entertain a motion to approve the road agreement.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Chapin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Item number 14 is consider and take possible action regarding the adoption of a tax abatement agreement with Natchez Solar LLC pursuant to Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. I entertain a motion to approve the tax abatement agreement.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Thank you, Bob.
Just for public information, M&O, when it's referred to, is for maintenance and operation. INS is for interest and sinking funds. Those are two separate items in a budget for a public entity, and so that's what those initials call for.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mr. Bass.
Mr. Bass,
This is
appreciate
our
it.
document for the Natchez. Okay. Yes. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Ms. Laster.
Just make
Appreciate
copies of that page. Okay, that'll work. Yes, sir. Lisa will help you. Oh, do you wanna hang around for this next item? Yes, I put it on there purposely. I guess we'll be in recess for just about 5 minutes.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cause a panic.
Everybody, it's gone. I don't know, Bob's making some copies for me.
Good morning, Mr. Dixon.
after recess, we'll reconvene and we've got a quorum. Item number 15, consider and take possible action to make a determination on whether to call a public hearing related to a request to establish an access road to County Road 1204 and County Road 1200. And we had a request, and Commissioner Chapin, this is in your precinct, from Gerald Johnson, filed an affidavit with me requesting a public hearing. Also, I got affidavits from two other people, James Kane and Derek, two other landowners, Derek Ashley and Tanya Ashley. And what they were requesting essentially is to, Mr. Johnson's somewhat landlocked. There was an easement, and I've got a picture. I thought it'd be easier to talk about. Let's see. Like this. Hang on a second. My computer went dormant. Okay, here we go. Thought this would be easier to talk about where everybody could see it. Let's see if my mouse will work up there on the screen. Where the blue arrow is, that little section that he's talking about crosses a landowner. He's got an easement down, kind of down that lane in the center, all the way up to that property line. And then that's another landowner that he's requesting essentially we hold a public hearing to take that property and open it up as a road to give him access to the county road. So essentially now, Mr. Bassett, I think this came up maybe last year, year before.
Yes, sir.
And he made the same request. Mr. Bassett had given the court back then, and I've reviewed it, and I think everybody's got a copy of his letter in the file. Is Mr. Johnson here or any of I sent letters of notice that we were gonna take this up today to Mr. Johnson, to James Kane, Derek Ashley, and Tanya Ashley. Is any of those individuals present in the courtroom? I don't see that they're here, but I thought we'd address this, so we would at least give him an answer whether we're gonna call a public hearing or not. But that would entail essentially eminent domain. We would have to actually try to take the property, which there's actually some changes in statutes Bob outlined in the Texas Property Code, correct? That show that changes in the law, it has to be for a public purpose. And
That's
so,
right.
So,
Well, Judge, if I can speak on it just a minute.
Okay.
Whenever this land that's in this tract, it was some undivided interest in the three tracts that have been broken up. They agreed on how to split the property, and Mr. Johnson getting the land on the back side. They give him the easement down the side of the property. The other two, I guess they're family members, and he wanted to go across that piece of private land to 1204, but their properties actually cross 1204, and they have access to 1204 from the existing property, but they chose not to take that route because they said that there was too much marsh, too much wet area that they had to cross. So they're the ones that were decided to come out high up and crossing this private land to get to 1204, not using the road access that they've already got. So I think that was somewhat for conveniences. But Mr. Johnson is just not wanting us to take that, through the eminent domain process and allow him to go across the gentleman's land. But he's also requesting that we build the road all the way into his property. Did you see that, Judge?
yes, sir, I was gonna cover that next.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry. But that's
You're
kind of
good.
to catch us up on where we're at with it.
Well,
This has been a year or two going on.
Right, and essentially, what it would, and I read the transportation code that he cited in the request. And, cause he asked me, when he was at that last meeting, to look at that. So I read the transportation code, I looked over what Bob had gone over, and essentially, the liability would all be on the county if there was any cost incurred, it would be on the county. The cost of building him a road through there would be essentially on the county under that transportation code. And of course, we're talking about using public funds again for doing something on private property. At the same time, we're talking about eminent domain and taking somebody's property, which I'm not in favor of doing. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. But I think that, you know, it creates some real problems for the county. It's not really, it's for an individual landowner, not for a public purpose. If we were taking in for, you know, a road for the whole community, that would be for a public purpose. This
Yes,
is just
sir.
for basically one or two or three landowners. So, you know, I'll just open it up for discussion, but that's kind of my opinion.
Oh, I agree. I mean, they do have access to the road. I mean, they'd have to build it up or what they do, but they actually cross 1204. So they've chose that route of wanting to have that road put in on that side. They just said it's the higher side and it was marshier. And I explained to them that without taking somebody else's property, for you to have access, you have, you know, the roads going through your property, but that's not what they want to do. So I don't agree with going through the process, public hearing, taking the land.
Any other discussion?
No, sir, you answered my question. If they already have a place, a right-of-way given to them, they've chosen not to use it, that's by choice.
But the judge is correct. I mean, and he's looked at it pretty thoroughly. I mean, it's all, we're in the right place with it. We just gotta decide whether we wanna step out of bounds, to me, I feel like, and take somebody's land away from them for something that doesn't serve public use.
And I wanted to make sure he got some due process and heard by the court
Yes, sir.
of what our opinion was.
And I agree with what you said. I mean, we can't take public funds and build a road that's only gonna benefit one or two people, you know.
It's a
agree with
wooded
that
track,
totally.
you know, it's a wooded track. It's not existing anything. It's just a wooded track.
I don't see where we can take public funds and use for personal gain, but we also have our legal advisor here, Mr. Bass, if he would like to speak to it.
Well, chapter 251, what is that section, Judge? It's,
Transportation code?
yeah, you have that site.
Yes, sir. Do you want a copy of your letter?
It'd be good.
Would
to
that
know.
help? And it says neighborhood roads. And one of the things I'll point out is it says the commissioner's court, in several places in that statute, the commissioner's court may, which is discretionary on the court, it's not a mandatory.
Correct.
Okay, so is that what you needed?
Well, I would just want to cite the
Here's your
particular.
letter, just a second, I got it right here, Bob.
The neighborhood road statute is a sort of a thorn, and it purportedly gives the county the authority to open a road. It becomes thereafter a public road, and it is conditioned. The original statute did not provide for any compensation. The Attorney General held that was unconstitutional. And so it went back to the legislature, and the legislature entered documents or entered additional language that says that it would be handled essentially under Chapter 21 of the Property Code. Well, that's the eminent domain statute. And so it gives, on the one hand, the right to open a public road, but it put, on the other hand, the necessity to pay for the right-of-way. And you've got to go through an elaborate process to do that. That being said, the statute, it's often cited by people who want you to build a road across another landowner, but they ignore the having to pay for that right-of-way. And they want you to build the road and take care of the other landowner, but that's the problem. And so it's not as easy an issue as they would have you believe. That chapter is often used and abused but it is one that has a duality to it. You have to balance acquiring the road with paying for it. Any questions?
No, sir. Thank
No,
you.
sir, thank you.
That's why I put it on right after the hearing, so you were here. Okay. But they did receive notice. We noticed everybody's. I'll entertain a motion, as to, or what's the pleasure to.
No action be taken.
No action be taken.
So that we, well, I think we need, he's requesting a hearing.
Okay.
Do we,
Deny.
You should
think we
call,
need to-
you should call for the hearing, and see if
Well-
there's a motion.
we're not actually doing the hearing. We're considering whether we're even gonna call a hearing.
Call the hearing, yes.
So my suggestion will be, if we do not want to call a hearing, that we deny his request for a hearing. And I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill to deny the request for a hearing, and let me just kind of read this in the record. Deny the request for a public hearing related to the request to establish an access road to County Road 1204, or County Road 1200. That's your motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. All right, next item on the agenda, you should have a quote in there. Consider and take action to approve a quote to replace Anderson County Adult Probation Conference Room carpet to be paid from opioid settlement funds. You got a quote for $3,155 from Boone and Boone. And it's the same carpet we had. They had a roll left. They'll have to order a little bit more, probably at least another roll. But it's like a 30 by 22 conference room at probation. Angela had asked me if we could. That was put in around 1997 when the building was built, and it hadn't been changed. I went over there. It's pretty worn. I didn't take any pictures, but I'm going to talk about a bill that we just had to pay to unstop all the plumbing at the courthouse here in a little bit. But that was $4,400, which we approved paying today. And, but I'm gonna give you a pretty good description of what happened and why that happened. But, so I didn't want to take this out of repairs and maintenance. I was hoping the court would just approve this so that we could get their carpet replaced in there. It looks pretty bad. So I'll entertain a motion to approve a quote of $3,155 from Boone and Boone Construction. It's gonna be the same company that laid this out here, so, since they had materials left over, it kinda cut the cost down. To lay or replace the carpet in the conference room at adult probation. Do I have a motion?
So move.
With opioid
With
settlement fund.
Yes, sir.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Chapin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? So ordered. Thank you. I know she'll be happy about that. All right, we've got, some renewal agreements, subscription agreements. They're on there in two different items, because they came to us in two different, agreements. The first one is item number 17, consider to take action on renewal of LexisNexis subscription agreement for state and local government for all, essentially, this is our electronic law library for patrons, and there's two terminals for the attorneys to use. If I remember right, and I didn't get a chance to ask this of the district judges, but I remember those were put up near the district courtroom, so they would have access to public terminals if they need to do research during a recess or something. So this is just a renewal of that agreement. Any questions?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the renewal of LexisNexis subscription agreement for state and local local government law library patron access for the two terminals for a period from May 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? So ordered. Second one is gonna be a similar agreement. And this one is for, the attorneys, the district attorney's office, the district judges, and it's for 11, users. So they depend on that to do their research. I'll ask the, court to consider the renewal of LexisNexis subscription agreement for state and local, government law library professional users, 11 users, for a period of May 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. All right, item number 19 is here presentation from Information Technology IT Department on information resources, budget, and infrastructure. There were some questions last time with regard to the FLAIR data invoices. I asked our IT department to just kind of put a presentation together to kind of inform the court where we're at, give a description of the equipment. Essentially, that FLAIR data invoice is for equipment. And so they put a presentation together. Mike couldn't be here today. His dad passed away Wednesday night. So he's working with family, and he had planned to be here too, but he couldn't. So we'll keep them in our prayers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Condolences to his family.
I put a PowerPoint together, and I'm going to ask for y'all's patience, because if it looks like my attention is divided, it's because I'm also doing the live stream. I'm not meaning to. No, I don't.
No, that's good right there, I think.
Basically,
you just have to tell me next when you get ready to go to the next slide, okay?
Understood. So the purpose of this presentation is to show why the item that we are talking about is important, and how it kind of fits into the big picture of the system. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me, please. So the two topics that are kind of melded together are production and disaster recovery. And production just simply means everything that's necessary to run our network and programs. That's what we mean when we say production. Go ahead and advance one. Yeah, so that was just an image of our production stack. And go ahead and go to the next one there. And disaster recovery is the reaction to any calamity that for the purposes of maintaining continuity of government. I know we've talked about that several times, so I know you guys are well aware of what that means. While our IT department has kept our data safe, we do not currently have and have never effectively had the ability to continue running our network and our programs in the days following a potential catastrophic event. So that's all of this just kind of fits together, because whatever decision we make today is going to affect the other parts of that. So that's why I'm talking about both of those, even though we're not buying any disaster recovery today. Go ahead and advance, please. So the data center is the core of the network. We have three major components: switching, storage, and processing. I will come back to what just disappeared there, I promise. But storage, which is the component we're talking about today, is the king of all parts of the data center. I kind of like to tell it like this. If I had all of our network, except for the data storage, sitting next to me over here, and the data storage itself was right here, and both of them fell off a cliff and I could only save one, I would jump for that guy right there and save it. It's that important. That's where everything exists. Everything, including, when we talk about every arrest, every docket, every social security number, confidential information, payroll, land records, all of it is on that dude right there. And
this is what we purchased.
Correct. If we purchase, with purchasing this item, we will own that data ourselves.
The ability to store store all of our stuff.
That's
on
correct.
that section.
Yes.
Okay.
And it will be under y'all's, the authority of the court, the authority of IT, the authority of the county.
And I may get ahead of you, I don't know, but just one question. With that data storage, it's for approximately 7 years. For
Yeah,
our growth,
yes.
correct?
So the breakdown that I have there is that there's about a 7-year lifespan that you expect out of these. So everything I talk about regarding cost is kind of built around that expectation. That will the storage that we have put into our system includes 7 years of growth, and that includes the things that the sheriff's office are talking about implementing regarding the camera systems for the vehicles, the body cameras, and all that kind of stuff. With all of that anticipation, we will have enough storage with this to be able to handle all of that on our own. The life expectancy, like I said, is 7 years. The cost of this item, you saw the bill, is $105,000. The setup with Flare Data was another $5,000 to $6,000. Breaking that down over 7 years, that's about $15,857 a year, but in real world, it's $111,000 the first year and about $5,000 a year after that for maintenance and licensing.
Okay, so this is a one-time cost.
Correct, yes.
And so instead of paying thousands of dollars to a vendor to store our data, then this is a one-time cost. Now, there may be other things that we have to do, but
Right.
what I'm saying from a storage standpoint.
Yeah, largely what we're talking about is an essential large purchase, and then we just have maintenance after that, which is pretty reasonable and easy to
And
swallow.
this is not our only storage, we also have a dual back.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah, backups.
In another
yeah.
location,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. The next component of a network is the processing. So I kind of give the analogy like this. If you have, Greg, I know you, Commissioner Chapin, my apologies. I know you had a meat processing plant.
Yes.
And so I think of it like this. If you have storage for raw product, then you have to process the product, then you have to store the finished product. The storage is the storage from raw and finished product. And then this is your processing. This is how many tables, knives, packaging stations, bandsaws, all that kind of stuff. So what we have here, this is our blade server. This is the part that helps us to process all the requests. There are going to be some components of that we'll need to upgrade and update. It also has a 7-year life expectancy. These upgrades are going to allow people to be able to work faster and to allow for failover. If there's a problem with one part of that, the rest of it will be able to pick up and handle it without any interruption to anybody. Nobody would even know that there was a problem. So that's another component of it that we would have to anticipate.
Do you have any estimates on some of the cost on that yet?
Yes, so the cost of the upgrades are $48,000 for the hardware and about $40,000 for licensing and software, bringing that again over 7 years to $25,000 per year.
What about the equipment? Can our equipment do that? Will that?
So we currently have equipment that is doing it, but it's at its 7-year end of shelf life.
Yes.
Yeah,
So what about that that piece of equipment? What is it you think it's gonna cost?
$48,000.
Just the 48,000?
Yeah, plus the licensing, which is another $40,000. So that brings our first year cost to $88K. And then our additional licensing every year after that for maintenance is about $13K.
Okay, on our storage, just to ask you this, we get past that. We do have the storage in 2 different places, but one being in an area in the county and one would be here in the county. Would it be wise to store this somewhere else outside the county in case that disaster hits both of these places?
So yeah, in disaster recovery, so right now what we have is there's 2 components. There's backup and then there's disaster recovery. And if I don't mean to re-educate you if you already remember this, but.
Is that in your presentation?
Yes, yeah, it's in the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Do you mind?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just thought it was, so I want.
You bet.
Yeah, so go to the next slide for me, please. The third component is switching. Switching is something that we have to have no matter what. It was already actually in our budget this year as an itemized unit for us to purchase. But that's the lanes of communication between storage and processing and also between storage and the users. So that's the roadways basically. Again, 7-year lifespan, cost about $40,000 with about $5,000 a year for maintenance. It breaks down to $10,700 a year. But again, first year $40K and after that $5,000 a year. It's already in budget. That was something, again, that we itemized last year with our request for our IT budget from you guys. So like I said, it was already part of what we were going to be spending.
Some of the stuff that we were talking about is in our current budget.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And by
I
the
may
way,
be
and I
getting
need
ahead of you
to,
too,
I need to clarify, everything I'm talking about doing here is within the limits of what we already have in the IT department's budget. So nothing here would request anything additional from capital or from anything else to get pulled in. We're talking about staying within our budget already. Next slide, please. So what are we running from this data center? We have 15 management servers, 17 Odyssey servers, 11 other servers for other services that we have, 40 plus terabytes of data, snapshot recovery services, backup recovery services, redundant internet service providers with traffic forwarding, which is something that Mark learned about here recently. What happened in the courthouse last week or week before, whenever that was, traffic forwarding. And 30 plus entities and integrations. I didn't expect anybody to read through that, but it is there and it's all true. But it's basically, we have about 30 companies or entities that either come to us for service or that we have to call for different services, whether it's our antivirus service, whether it's our backup and recovery service, we have a lot of different people that we have to constantly stay in communication with to keep things running and going, regardless of what path we take forward. Go ahead, next slide, please. And if any time you guys want to stop me, obviously, you know you can. So who are we serving? Go ahead and hit the first one. I'm the Anderson County Sheriff's Office. I didn't have an amazing picture of y'all's building, gentlemen, I apologize, but I grabbed something from the sign. About 11 computers at the jail, fingerprint machines, TLETs video call system for the arraignment system, 2 networks, 3 internet connections, multiple systems integrations, 26 users in juvenile, you can see there, 4 users, 5 PCs, 3 printers, sheriff's office. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on here. TLETs is its own animal. Dispatch fail-safes have to be in place. 48 user accounts, multiple systems integrations. Next, please. At the courthouse, I mean, you can see our breakdown there. We've got a lot of offices that require a lot of different components. Our network is pretty heavy. And go ahead and go to the next one. And the annex. All of these buildings are all connected on the same network lines. So we don't go out to the internet to get to these different buildings because several years ago, y'all approved having some fiber optic cable buried between buildings, and so that's what allows us to be able to run as efficiently as we can run between buildings. But, I mean, that's quite a bit. The tax office, I put Frankston on the wrong one, but we got other satellite offices that we have to be able to get to also. There's a lot of...
So y'all are maintaining all of it?
Yeah.
As the administrators over all of these computers?
Mm-hmm.
And
Correct.
you're updating, you're changing out computers?
Yes.
You're on a daily basis talking to all these individuals if they're having a problem?
Absolutely.
And getting their problems solved, correct?
Yes, and if you'll go to the next slide here, so what does that wind up breaking down to? Well, phones, for instance, we have 239 phone extensions, including 23 phone trees, 24 fax lines, 5 analog to digital converters for fax machines, and we learned recently that now we have to deal with the FCC regarding text messaging communication because we have phone systems that can send and receive text messages, and so now we've got different areas that we have to try to make sure we're doing those industries correctly. User support, the previous slide does not add up to 220 plus users, but I assure you they are there. That's just different kinds of users or different accounts that we had to have in order to make everything and everybody run properly. We just took on veteran services, for instance. Over 220 plus PCs and servers, 115 plus printers and copiers, 30 plus entities and integrations, 10 internet connections. Guys, we have 10 internet connections that for a variety of different reasons, offices and buildings and everything like that, yeah. 15 plus virtual networks, 100 plus support requests per week is what we receive. New projects, and I wanted to talk specifically about this one because we have over 20 projects that are on our board that we want to be able to accomplish, but every project requires the following: searching and researching for the solution to a problem. That's what IT basically does, is solve problems, technological problems. Educate ourselves and get department involvement. A lot of these, IT is so expansive that it requires us to, when there's a problem that needs to be solved, we go to those people like the with body cam and car cam people, and we have to talk to them and ask them and get educated ourselves on this so that we can administrate this stuff correctly. Get department involvement. We would never think about putting anything into a department without getting that person involved and say, hey, how is this going to affect you? We test solutions. How are we going to be able to maintain it? How are we going to be able to manage it? Are the users going to be able to use it correctly? And is it good for our network? All of those things have to be done for every one project that we have.
Just one example that I just learned about is, we're doing the new upgrade for the sheriff's department. But y'all had the company send you a laptop. And then what are you doing to that laptop so that all the other, you're configuring that laptop?
Right, yeah,
For what, to work with our system for the
Correct.
sheriff's office?
Yeah, we have to build
You're gonna
out.
send it back to them
Correct, yeah, so
that they can.
yeah, and we haven't
employ
received
all
it
the
yet, but
others?
yeah, we're going to build a laptop out, and then they're going to clone that laptop over several machines, and then we'll have to make sure we set them up individually for just some tweaks for every one of the cars.
Let me ask you, you was talking about, talking to a company and them educating you on what they're doing.
Sure.
Is there any kind of offered continuing education for y'all like there is for the rest of the people? Is there anything for the IT people out there?
So there's nothing from the state mandating certain continuing educations in order to be able to work in the IT department. We're
Except for cybersecurity and.
Right, yes, correct, yeah, well, cybersecurity. But as far as us continuing to learn industries, it's sort of by attrition. We are constantly having to call companies and relearn. As a matter of fact, I just signed up for a class for our backup and recovery appliances next month. That's like a week long that I'll be going to try to make sure that I'll be certified in that aspect of, at the end of this.
I'm just
So,
wondering
yeah.
if there's anything offered like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, well, there's
specific trainings, there's like
there's-
specific trainings to make them qualified to
Yes.
hold that position.
Receive their
Yes, sir.
certificates to be able
Yes,
to
sir.
do it.
Yes.
But sometimes when we have a new provider, a new vendor, then there's education related to
Oh,
working
absolutely.
with them.
Absolutely.
To
We spend,
deploy that equipment.
we spend a lot of time on, as a matter of fact, I tell people that most of what we do in IT is read. That's literally most of what we do, is sit there and make sure that everything's going to be compatible, reading the specs, how is it going to do, what is the new standards that are coming out and all that. Next slide, please. So where were we? Well, we were paying $234,000 a year at the previous vendor, which accounts to about $1.6 million over a 7-year period. Go ahead and next slide, please. So what are we talking about doing? Now, this part starts getting into disaster recovery and not necessarily what we were talking about, but the costs wind up marrying each other. So with cloud disaster recovery, there's no upfront cost, but you do have to pay a yearly cost of about between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. And I say that's a pretty big window, and I'm saying that because the last time we got a quote for that was over 2 years ago. So I did some cost adjusting on my own part. I can't just call up a vendor and say, hey, how much do you charge for disaster recovery? Because they'll take a month and a half for me to be able to get something back from them with lots of calls and they have to do systems assessments and all kinds of stuff.
How far out would you reach? I mean, out of our district totally, or, would it be to one of the bigger cities or for that?
So,
company?
yeah, so as far as like a physical proximity, like a
Yes,
distance?
I mean, because if we're still in the region
So-
having the problems, would it be something we'd go as far
Right.
as Dallas, Houston?
So as, I prefer to have something that's not near the coastline, but, because of hurricane problems, but every disaster recovery, we wouldn't even consider a disaster recovery service if it didn't have at least 2 locations in the country where they would be keeping our system and information, or our backup information. So anyway, there's a huge span. Everything from here on that I give you, present to you in terms of dollars, if we go with this cloud disaster recovery, is a worst case scenario dollar amount. I'm talking about at the most expensive thing that I found a couple years ago. And then I added 20% onto it for kicks and giggles. And then I added 20% onto the amount that we have to have backed up for kicks and giggles. And then I added some triage dollars in there just in case we got to call somebody and get help. I added lots to it. So the numbers that you see are going to be worst case scenario numbers. So the benefit of this is that we have help on hand. If all of a sudden something happens, we have a number we can call and they will help us be able to stand up a disaster recovery center. And then when it's time to recover back to our own system, they can help us hand it back off to us. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. There's the breakdown of that. This is that top number that says $210,000 for the first year. That's including the purchase that we're talking about today, the 105 plus the 5,000 for the setup. And then in addition to that, the blades, that I talked about, the 48,000 plus the 40,000, and then also the switching. All of that together will give you that first number right there. 128,000 per year after that. Again, that's the highest estimate. That would give us about $978,000 over 7 years and will save us around $660,000 over a 7-year period from the previous vendor, which accounts to about $94,000 per year. Next slide, please. So so altogether, if we decided to do disaster recovery ourselves, we would basically be taking everything we're buying this year and doing it all over again and putting it at a different location that we would own. It's a lot more affordable. It's a lot bigger upfront cost, but it's a lot more affordable over time. And you can see the numbers there. During disaster recovery, we pay no fees at all if we owned everything ourselves. Go to the next slide, please. The downside, we're flying solo. If disaster happens, we would have nobody that we can call that actually runs our disaster recovery, because we would be the beginning and the end. Everything would fall directly on us, which we feel confident about, but in a disaster, there's just things that can happen that you can't foresee. So it's good to have somebody that you can reach out to. And you can see the cost of that over there. It would save us a lot more money, but we recommend the one just above that, but I'll get back to that in a second. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. This I don't intend to spend a lot of time on. I want it to be in here in case you guys have specific questions that you want to ask about the budget. It's here and we can talk about it, but it's just so much information, it's kind of confusing right now. So I'm going to skip to the next slide, but if any time you guys say, hey, I want some details, we can kick back over to it. So there's just the summary page like I was talking about. The one we recommend is in the middle, which includes us buying the device that we're talking about today, and then down the road being able to budget for disaster.
In other words, the one that's on the agenda.
Yes, I'm sorry, the one that's on the agenda. And the next slide's really going to kind of capitalize or punctuate rather, the money part of it. The IT budget is a $650,000 budget for county computer services. The red on the left is our data center and disaster recovery category. The blue in the middle is literally everything else, including Odyssey and Orion and some other upgrades and stuff. The pink on the very end is how much we have left over. And so I highlighted the two at the ends because that's kind of what I wanted to punctuate with this slide, that with a $650,000 budget, in the past, we spent, $223,000 a year. That would have gone up if we had continued with our previous vendor, leaving us about $47,000 a year. If we go ahead and make the little bit higher investment this year, we'll be spending about $285,000 out of that category. We'll still be within our budget because we still got about 15 grand left over, which isn't huge, but we're not outside of our budget. And then this 2024 is what we anticipate for years after. About $128,000 coming out. There's the rest of our budget in blue, and that's $172,000 left over in our budget to be able to expand and do other things with and grow and get better and, add other things to the network that some of our users are needing, and to be able to, get help in other ways. And anyway, so that's my presentation.
So essentially, all of our data, and that's what we bought the equipment for, is stored on that equipment.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And if you were looking at our data storage, what percentage, just roughly, are we using right now for all of our data on that equipment that we purchased?
So we anticipated that it was going to be using about 30% of it when we started, and which would have given, again, with incremental growth, that would have been a good 7-year call out. However, right before Mike left, storage is a funny thing. There's different technologies that help reduce the amount of space it's taking up on a storage device. But Mike looked at how much of the storage unit we're actually using, and it was far, far less. It was somewhere around 10% of the storage unit. Like I said, a lot of that has to do with the technology involved with how things are stored. It's it's weird stuff.
I just wanted
we
a
have
picture for the core.
About 10% is what?
To see that it's not 50% of it.
Oh, yeah. No.
So it gives us plenty of growth to be able to
Yes.
take on more storage,
Yes.
and it's not gonna put us in a bind.
Oh, correct,
But
correct.
everything we've got's on that,
That's right.
and
Everything,
it's backed up in another place,
that's correct.
same way, okay.
Right. So right now, we have 3 copies of everything we have, 3 copies that belong to us.
Anybody got any questions?
I have none, sir.
Thank you, Tex.
Okay. I'm sorry if that was too long, guys. I
No,
want to
no,
make
I
sure I
think you
answered.
did very
what-
Hey,
good.
I appreciate
Appreciate
it. That's what I was really wanting, that information. I appreciate you extending it out there to us.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the flare data invoices for Anderson County data storage equipment.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered.
Now, Judge,
Yes, sir.
can we have a quick discussion? Have we improved it?
Do what now?
We've done it. Can we have a quick discussion on it real fast before we go to vote?
Yeah.
Okay, Tex, this question for you. On that data, and I understand we have it stored here in 2 locations.
Correct.
Off premises, or y'all seeking storage elsewhere?
Yes. Did you ask if we're seeking it or if we currently have it?
Are you seeking storage somewhere else?
Yes.
Other
That's
than-
going to be part of disaster recovery.
Yes,
Correct.
other than Anderson County.
Correct.
Okay, because something happens, it does not all need to be stationed here in Anderson County.
Correct. Yeah, there's
We've all been
industry.
advised that. We
Correct.
just want to make sure it's clear
Yes.
that we're getting it, therefore, our services will be met and that every office will be able to be running as expected.
Correct.
And can correctly run with the proper files and data stuff that they need to go on.
Right. Yes, yeah, we're absolutely seeking something. It's a 50-mile minimum is industry standard. It's not a law.
Yes.
It's just an industry standard.
Okay.
But we're trying to stay within budget on that. That's part of what you were showing.
That
Yes.
120,000
That's
a
still
year
within our
is-
budget.
That 120,000 a year, yeah, is within budget, and that's the maximum we could possibly see it going toward.
Yes.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, item number 20, is to consider and take action on shipping cost in the amount of $483.30 for the Natchez Volunteer Fire Department. And this is still with our American Rescue Plan Act funds, and this is still within their allotted amount.
Yes, sir, I think this is actually, gonna be it for them. They'll reach the 50,000.
Close them out.
Yeah, I need that letter for, Chris.
I'm sorry.
Just need a motion on it. Second, I guess. She said that was gonna
Yeah.
close them out. That was gonna
Okay.
finish them out.
Commissioner Mills was telling me something.
Yes.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dixon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chapin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. And item number 21 is consider and take action on ordering gas detectors to include calibration and training for Elkhart Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $3,897 to be paid with the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And
Yes, sir.
that's still within their budgeted amount?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Chapin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Item number 22, consider and take action on ordering radios for Tucker Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $2,797.50 to be paid with American Rescue Plan Act funds. And again, that's still within their budgeted allotted amount?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. All right, item number 23 is consider and take action on approving bid for a modernization of the agricultural building elevator. And let's see. Did you want to address it?
So, what's in your packet is, the bid tabulation. We received one complete bid. We did receive another one, but it came in late. The second
was
one.
what?
It was late. So, the one that is complete and came in on time is in your packet.
All right, the one bid shows to be a, bid of $259,770 from Otis Elevator. I know I didn't anticipate, when we got the estimates, it was like 170 to 220,000. I didn't anticipate that, but I'm not an elevator expert. And, so we put the bids out there. I know, I'll just say this, Misty did, a lot of research. At least she told me that she had, reached out on listserv and got a lot of details and stuff from other counties that had bid elevators, and she put a pretty good packet together. We had 4 or 5 potential bidders. I anticipated to seeing maybe 3 or 4 bids, but they actually came here and I let James take them over there. I didn't want to be any part of them going over and interacting with them, so I let my maintenance supervisor take them over to look at the elevator, and some of them spent some tedious times looking at the elevator to make a determination on the bid. And I think Brent is here with Otis Elevator. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Did you want to address the court or anything, or?
Unless you have questions.
Well, that's, okay. I mean,
I'd be happy to come up, though.
Sir?
I'd be happy to come up if you want.
Okay, all right. And I've actually got our inspector, Bobby Manning, in case there was questions, that does our elevator inspections. If there's questions about anything, y'all have any questions? No, sir. Okay. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bid to modernize our elevator with a bid from Otis Elevator for $259,770. Do I have a motion to approve? All right, and just, everybody understands that we've got to shut down the basement at the extension office for use right now.
What?
And that's I've interacted with Truman and actually Allison Mitchell, and she indicated that we need to shut it down because we're in 88 non-compliance.
I understand.
Nobody can go down the stairs or use the elevator.
Yeah,
If they're in a wheelchair.
Yes, sir, that makes sense. I don't know where to reach out to look for what other solution there might be to this. It just, me personally, it seems expensive for what it is. I'm not an elevator person either, I don't know. But I just don't know if there's any other solution out there to address the issue we have. And right now, that's my recommendation, do what we've done and shut the bottom floor down till we see if there's.
Let me ask a question, okay? We purchased the building. We just put them in the building. In what, October, September, October? And we did, I wasn't here, okay? So I'm asking part of this from information, and I think the public deserves at least to know, did we have an architect on the building when we purchased it? Or did we have a construction manager that took over the work on that elevator, on the building to tell the court, what things need to be done to this building to make sure that we can use it? And I'm gonna circle back because I don't want to put the extension office in a position. They've been doing training in that basement, and we're talking 30 to 40 people down there. And fortunately, nobody's had to use the elevator, but that could happen tomorrow. And we've got a little over $5.5 million in the ARPA funds. We've got $2.1 million in permanent improvement. So my deal is fix the elevator. We're just now getting into the building. Let's go ahead and fix it so we don't have any future problems with the elevator. And it just makes sense to me, we gotta fix it, we gotta bid. I anticipated other bidders, but Otis is the lone bidder that we have on the table today. So, I'm one of those, I don't wanna leave this for another court. I don't wanna have to keep struggling to try to, I'm working with Truman right now to let them use the multi-purpose room for their meetings. But they've been doing a lot of training for the cattle raisers around here and the farmers.
Well, Judge, I understand that. That's why we wanted that building, so they could have that facility there. And we did. We didn't go out for architect and outside deal because we were trying to save county dollars in doing that. But we did reach out to elevator people and a retired inspector who give us some information that it could be fixed at a lot more reasonable rate than $250,000. So yes, we did reach out. We did do legwork at the time, but maybe we was given some wrong information at the time.
And that could be true.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
so, but,
I'm trying to make sure we're informed.
yes.
Well, Truman and them have been housed in the federal building for years, and which is not ADA, accessible. So they've had to outsource using these rooms here, that, they have access here, community centers, hospitals, churches, different ones, so they're used to that. And he's fully understood now that, he'd been advised not to have any more meetings downstairs, so the downstairs meetings are off until they decide. So, he had reached out to me and told me that Judge and, he and, Allison had that conversation. So he's prepared these next few meetings to be here, I think, right, Judge?
Well, he's got 2 meetings this week. They've got that election going on in 103A and then 103B, so we made it to where he could use the one seconds for a courtroom in the center.
But his office facility, where he's at upstairs, the other bathroom, was built to where it does need some handrails inside of it to have an ADA inspected bathroom. It does need the railings for the commode itself, but the access doors are at the 36 instead of the 32-inch requirements. I think you're working on the bottom, right?
I've got on the updates, for the construction project.
For the lower?
I was gonna talk about that. I've got some pictures so you can see what we're doing and what we've accomplished over there.
Yeah, for the lower part?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's what I was understood that. But, I still, like I said, I think that we'd have time. I think if I'm looking this over, September's our starting date if we was to accept it. I think we still have time to look in to see if we have other options or either shut the bottom floor down and build another facility. At that rate, we can have a lot of other options, or maybe even having a ramp access possibility. I don't know, I haven't looked into it.
So, what's the pleasure of the court? How do you want, I'm for fixing it. I don't like the cost, and I don't like that we're having to do this either. I'm just looking at it from a standpoint, like they said, they can't start on it until September.
So it's down till there anyway.
Well, it's down to.
But we have an option to rebid. We could go out for bids and reach out to other companies, and we've done that on several occasions.
I'm just wondering I understand you said you went out for 6 companies and only one was.
No, I think this, how many, just without having to come up here, just how many packets y'all sent out?
6 different.
6, we sent 6.
Okay, I didn't know, so.
Yeah.
And you researched some of the top companies in the state, I remember you saying that.
Denise pulled one and we called them, they service our area, so the top 6.
Okay.
So we could go out and rebid it and have some more, there's one
I just
coming late
know
to see what other options.
Know what other option might be out there. I don't know what it is. I just know $250,000 is a lot of money. And I understand. We built the building to serve, or we didn't build the building. We got the building to serve the purpose, and it was gonna serve the purpose. And like I say, we might have got some information that wasn't correct at the time, but that's in the past now, and before I would vote to spend that, I would like to see, is there another option out there before I make a decision right now to spend back? So anyways, that's where I stand.
Well, I know I was in the court and I didn't get to hear the first part of it. And I did ask the judge if I could go out and catch Mr. Bass on that issue. But, we just finished, I come back in and I hear you on the topic. My question was this morning before, and I had called, I did not know that, we had stopped using the basement fully already, so they come over here for their meetings. So I understand now that the basement is shut off and we're not using it. So that helps me a little more, and it lets me know that, due to protocol, no one is going down there, so we're not in compliance because we're only using one floor. By doing that, using one floor, I mean, I'm like, Mr. Dixon, if we could see if maybe one more time, give them another chance, because y'all have done that for us. You know, I know a lot of times people compare Commissioner's Court, they'll bring up a road and bridge saying, oh, well, we bid it on this, or y'all do that. It's like a motor grader to, not trying to kick on the sheriff's department or nobody, but, you know, it's like a motor grader to law enforcement or something. So, I mean, we have went out for other bids again on road base or material or something when something wasn't right. So if it's okay, just to see if we possibly could get something in cheaper, I would like to see that. I think the building is a good place and people are in there doing a good, you know, job and service over there. But again, I don't feel, for the taxpayer standpoint, we've spent that much on that building to keep putting so much in there. I mean, we bought the building a lot less than what it cost for the elevator. I mean, and I know we put a little improvements in it, but I would like to see if there's just one more chance, we might get a little cheaper.
That's your mobile.
Yes.
I've got, let me ask, Mr. Manning, let me ask a few questions, okay? He's our inspector
Okay,
for this area.
that'd be great, yes,
He
sir.
just inspected the elevator after it was repaired over in the courthouse. So he's been in, how long since it?
I've been doing elevators since 1978.
Okay, all right, so let me ask you a few questions. And you went over and looked at that with us
Yes, sir.
originally.
Yes, sir.
While y'all were over here servicing this, I asked you to come over and, I've got information from Otis, that's where we had some, estimates. I also asked you to look at some of the things they were talking about repairing to see if that was consistent with getting us to standard where we could be inspected.
Yes, sir.
And then also, I asked you to look at, I think, another document where another inspector, somebody else had looked at the elevator before.
Yes,
Okay?
sir.
Now, something that, and I got this weekend, I've been looking over the papers. James brought me some paperwork that some of the elevator people that were down there looking at it, brought me a packet of paperwork from inspections and stuff before. And so I'm gonna make sure the court at least knows this. Let me find it. I made copies so I could give you all. And it's an inspection report from 2012.
That was probably mine.
No, it was evidently somebody else that inspected it.
Okay.
Let me find it. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Let me give you one, because we hadn't talked about this. I had a whole packet of different inspections and documents. He said somebody at least talked about this, and I didn't know what it was, but in looking at the inspection reports, it says that there's a single bottom jack in the elevator, which, you know, we talked about whether it was single or not. But at one point, there was somebody with TDLR that had the serial numbers that could tell you one way or the other. I don't know.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, but this is a different inspector. This is not you, correct?
No, that's not me. That's Paul Fradel. I know him. He used to work for me a long time ago.
Okay, so I don't know if he identified that before that person left with TDLR with all the serial numbers or not. I don't know.
Dover Elevator has all the serial numbers for single bottom jacks when they install them, and they stopped installing them in 72.
Okay.
I think it was 72, somewhere in the early 70s. My understanding is, with all the years I've been doing this, you can't just look at that jack and tell it's a single bottom. I've asked several Dover people that were employed with these people and high up in the corporation as adjusters and salesmen and this, that, and other, and without the serial numbers, you cannot tell whether that's a single bottom jack or not. Now, they started putting in double bottom jacks mid-sixties. Now, whether that jack was a single or a double, I don't know. The only difference is the very bottom of the jack. Now, at this point right now, you're looking at a 60-something model elevator. We don't know what's under that ground, if there's water under it, whether there's catalytic corrosion in that ground or not. So at this point right now, saying it's a single bottom jack, we don't know. And my professional opinion is I can't look at it and tell, and I don't know any other inspector that can. They can guess and say, yeah, it was put in the 60s, it's a single bottom jack. But without the serial number and the corresponding number that Dover Elevator had, which is not Dover anymore, it's ThyssenKrupp, without having those numbers, we don't know for sure what it is.
So let me ask you, and of course, it shows it was built, it was put in 67.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does TDLR require from 1970 on? If the elevator was put in before 1970?
You're asking what TDLR requires?
Well, for an inspection report, my understanding is that if you're modern, if you're bringing that up to standards, you gotta make sure that's not a single bottom jack, or you gotta do something to repair it.
Well, they can't, right now, they can't make you do that. They can only assume that it's a single bottom jack. And that would be up to the city, the county, or the elevator company as saying whether they want to replace it or not. But that jack is old. We don't know what's under the ground. We don't know what kind of corrosion is under there. And being as old as it is, it may last another 20 years, and then again, it may not last tomorrow. We don't know. I mean, without digging it up, you're not going to know what's in there. Now, the plunger and everything is in pretty good shape, but the casing itself is what we're worried about. We don't know what kind of wear and tear is on it. Like I said, whether there's any corrosion underneath the ground or water running past it or whatever. So we're just guessing.
It's been in the ground for 55 years.
Yeah, if you're going to do a mod on an elevator this age, I would prefer myself, my personal opinion, I'd pull the jack and put a new one in. I mean, you're gonna spend a little more money, but you're gonna have an elevator that's brand spanking new. As it is, you're gonna put in all the stuff that's on top of the ground, the controller, the doors, the car top, the cab, the emergency, the fire service, all this stuff. But if your jack blows out, you still got a broke elevator.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You brought up you said, is it, Dover's not in existence anymore, so it would be, did you say ThyssenKrupp?
ThyssenKrupp, yes, sir. That's who
ThyssenKrupp?
bought out Dover Elevator, yeah.
Is there any way that you could, like, say for instance, if the court today recommended you go out to try to figure out if that was
A double.
yes, sir.
No, that's what he's saying.
Could
Somebody
y'all go
with
off
Dover,
those
when
numbers?
they left,
He said
Well,
he
it
probably
was
got
the
serial
chief
number.
elevator inspector, Lawrence Taylor, got the numbers from ThyssenKrupp Elevator, a guy that he knew in, someplace in Arkansas where they were at the manufacturer at one time. He got the numbers for them. I don't know who he got them from, but he had the numbers. He's not the chief elevator inspector anymore. He's now consultant, I think, for Lurch Bates or whatever, but he has the numbers. He said he left the numbers with TDLR, but nobody at TDLR can find those numbers. So as far as the serial numbers go, we're lost again. And I used to call him when I do one, say, okay, this is the serial number. Can you tell me if it's a single bottom jack or not? And he would come up with the answer to that. But he's gone. He stayed as long as he did and wanted to get out. Now there's another guy down there, Jim Hernan. I've asked him several times if he has the numbers and the serial numbers. He says no, he don't know where they are. So we don't know.
so let me ask you another question, okay? If that jack blew out, and we talked about an example, I said, is that ever happened? And there was another one, and I won't say where it was at, but the jack blew out. Can you describe what process they had to go through with the EPA to clean up that environmental spill?
Yeah, if the EPA gets involved in it, you're talking about you tearing up the whole pit, digging all the dirt out and then replacing it. There was a job that we discussed, and it was an extensive job. It was another company installed it. It was probably about, I'm gonna say it was probably about 4 years old when the jack blew out because of all the corrosion and water and stuff in the ground. And the EPA dug up, I think, half of the building and half of God's green earth down there, trying to get all the contaminated oil and soil out of there. And then the company that did it had to replace all that stuff and put it back in, which was a very expensive and a very long journey to get through that whole process. It was over a year to get all that stuff done and back into running condition.
On that elevator, if it was repaired, would that elevator pass inspection with a brake jack on that cylinder?
With the jack that's in it now?
Yeah, with the jack that's in it now, would it require a brake jack, emergency brake jack?
You talking about the plunger gripper?
The plunger gripper, yes, sir.
Yeah, you can put a plunger gripper on it.
Would it require that to even pass inspection, though? That's my question.
Yeah, it would pass inspection, yeah. If you put a plunger gripper on it, it would. But if it ever blows out, you're still gonna have to replace it. That plunger gripper is just gonna tear up the cylinder when it stops it. It's gonna scar it up pretty bad, cause it has to get it to stop. Cause you're running about, I think that elevator is either 80 or 100 foot a minute. So if it blows and it's on the top floor, you're gonna get up to about 80 foot a minute. It's gonna slam on the brakes on that plunger gripper, and then you've got a bad plunger and a bad jack. Which, if you replace it, you're gonna replace the plunger anyway, because that comes with the jack and the casing and all that stuff. But you wanna spend part of the money, say, I don't know how much one costs anymore. I haven't priced them in several years, so I don't know what the cost of a plunger gripper is. But myself, if I was doing it, I'd do the whole thing, because if it does blow out, I mean, it's 20-something years old. How old is that thing? 67?
In since 67.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're just rolling the dice. If you put a plunger gripper on it, it may last. If you put a plunger gripper on it, it may not last. So, I mean, it's just a roll of the dice whether that jack's gonna go out or not, because you're putting, working pressure, you're probably putting 350 to 400 pounds of pressure on it to run that thing up and down. And when you're doing that, you're just putting a lot of pressure on a 50-year-old jack and casing. So it's just a matter of what you want to do. You're either going to replace it now or you're going to replace it later. That's just my theory on it. I mean, if you're going to do it, spend the money.
Thank you.
I'm not making the dime on it, but.
Well, I just want the court to have as much information as they can to make an informed decision.
Yeah,
and I've learned through this process that things that I didn't know.
And it may be,
sure they know it.
It may be a double bottom jack. We don't know that.
So how can we find it other than a serial number? Getting somebody
You
to
won't.
actually put a scope down in there to see?
You could, well, no, you can't, because a single bottom jack is single bottom on the inside, okay? So, and a double bottom jack has another layer inside at the bottom. So you could drop anything you want down through there, but you got to pull a plunger to do that, and you got to pull the head to do that. Then that means you're spending thousands of dollars to open it up and drop something down in there, a camera. Then you're gonna have to take out all the oil to see anything. So, do you want to spend the extra money? I mean, that's up to y'all, but I mean, like I said, it is an older jack. Even if it is a double bottom jack, we don't know for sure, like I said, what kind of Catholic protection is in the ground to keep that thing from rusting out from the outside in. And
well, let me say this, okay?
Yes, sir.
Because they need to know this. So if it's replaced, you're not gonna go back with just a steel railer in the ground. You're gonna go back with PVC.
Yeah.
Sealing the jack in the ground so moisture does not get to the new.
yeah, you're gonna put a PVC casing inside, or on the outside, excuse me, on the outside, and then you're gonna drop the real casing down on the inside of it, and then you're gonna, put, foam or other kind of, protection inside there, inside between the two. And then that's gonna protect it from groundwater, corrosion, and all that stuff. And that's what they're doing now. They're making them put a outside casing before they drop the real casing inside there to keep from, so it'll last another 50 or 70 years or whatever length of time you want it to last. And then they have Catholic protection on it, which grounds it to the ground to keep that, in case there is a leak in the PVC, that it'll still help protect it, so.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Sheehan?
Can I make a?
Yeah, Brent Sheehan is with the Otis Elevator. I mean, y'all looked at it, I know y'all went over it before you put your bid in along with 3 or 4 other companies.
Brent Sheehan, mod specialist with Otis Elevator Company. So I understand it's a substantial investment, $259,000. This is gonna get you through next probably 20, 30, 40 years. Part of that investment is you have to bring, right now we're on 2016 ASME 17.1 elevator code with the state of Texas. They should be going to 2019 code soon, but we're not there yet. So part of the investment that you're making is you have to bring fire life safety, non-elevator mechanical, and then electrical up to current code as well. So there's quite a bit of investment that you're making that's part of the 259 to bring those other items up to code as well, along with all the new equipment that we're providing, which is basically a power unit, a controller, new door operator, new car doors, new cab interior, new fixtures, new top of the car inspection station, new hoistway access key switch. So older elevators, what they do is they access the elevator through what they call a drop key. They stick the key in, stop the elevator in mid-flight. Not particularly the safest means to stop an elevator. But now what they have is they have what they call hoistway access key switches. So they take control of the elevator that way. So when Mr. Manning or somebody else is doing your yearly inspection, we're putting someone on top of the car or in the pit in a safer manner. So that's to protect y'all's liability, protect our liability if we were the service provider for the elevator. But that, you got to understand that the liability that comes along with that and not taking full control of the elevator, there's a means now that we're on with the 2016 code to take safer access for the elevator. We also install what we call access alert on there. So think of access alert as if you get in your car and you don't put your seatbelt on. And you hear the beeping sound, right? So if our elevator technician comes and we've modernized the elevator and we don't take full control of the elevator, this access alert system will have a similar beep to what you encounter when you go in your car and you don't put your seatbelt on. Because we want our guys, we want inspectors, we want anyone that's either in that pit or on top of the elevator to return to their families on a daily basis.
So does the upper part of the elevator shaft itself, does it have to be modified to put this in for the headroom for that?
No, there is low
room.
clearance on there, on the overhead, but it will not, the shaft itself will not have to be modified.
Gotcha.
But if there's any questions about our bid submittal package, I know it's extensive, I know it's a huge investment, but again, if you span it out over 20, 30 years, you mean, it's really not a huge investment at the end of the day.
One of the things, let me ask, because I think y'all figured in if there's some spillage on the hydraulic fluid, then y'all are actually gonna take a
Yeah, our bid does,
Removal in case a little bit spills or something?
yeah, our bid does include the removal of the spoils. So when we go do the whole clean out, so part of the process is for us to bring in an evacuation company in, remove the spills, once we take that, cylinder out, and then we do what we call a whole clean out. So we've included in our bid up to 500 gallons. We'll bring in a company, they'll dispose of those properly, and then, as long as we don't hit any groundwater, then it should be pretty cut and dry. Removals of those spills, properly disposing of them, setting the new casing, and then setting the new cylinder.
Mr. Manning, did you have something?
Yeah, you proposing the, hydro bid?
It'd be a hydro excel.
Is that the one, the tanks in the pit?
No. The tank, no. Yes. The hydro excel in the submersible power unit will be in the machine room. And then your current machine room will bring up to today's technology as it relates to fire life safety. There's a hour-and-a-half door, fire-rated door that's gonna need to be put on. We're actually gonna need to separate, if you go in the machine room currently, you kind of just walk in there and you walk around the corner and there's the power unit. And we're gonna actually have to separate that other room, because I believe there was like telephone wires in there and things that weren't elevator related. So we'll put in a hour-and-a-half fire-rated door there, set a new frame, and then have the proper clearances for the electrical upgrades, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Any other questions? Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid. $259,770 from Otis Elevator to modernize the elevator and agricultural building. Do I have a second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second. Does the court wish to go back out for bids?
I'll put it in a form of motion, Your Honor.
Go back out for bids?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. All right, motion by Commissioner Mims, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chapin, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain since I wanted to go in and fix it. Okay. All right, so the motion passes, okay? All right, let's see. All right, item number 24 is consider and take action on approving the transfer of, is that a Ricoh? Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Is it? Okay, Ricoh copier model MP 4002, serial number 131000940, from Anderson County Clerk's Office to Anderson County Veterans Office, and undesignated as surplus property. If y'all remember, we declared it as surplus on February the 27th, 2023. One of the things I wanted to point out, and that IT pointed out to me that I hadn't thought about, is that copiers have hard drives in them. So we've got stored data on those hard drives. So we don't need to declare those surplus and put them in an auction anymore. And I'd never thought about it. But do you want to address that real quick?
Yeah, as long as we have an opportunity and we know beforehand to go in there and pull the hard drive, that's, as far as Siege's policies, that.
But it's basically, after that, it's worthless anyway, really.
It is, because it
Unless
needs.
y'all wiped it and put the hard drive
Well,
back
but
in.
we don't have the ability to
Okay.
wipe it and make it useful
Okay.
again. It would just be 100% wiped, but we've never pulled hard drives out of a copier. Every copier is different, so I'm not making any guarantee that the copier would be in a working condition before, when we
Okay.
pull it out. I don't know if it's gonna break.
What about on a lease? We need to make sure that it's wiped
Yes.
before it goes back to that company, right?
Yes, and that's something that I'm glad you brought that up, and I don't want to bring in something that doesn't belong here, but I wanted to make sure that we included in lease agreements from now on that we have some sort of a data agreement for those things in the future.
I just wanted the court to be aware of that, because I sure wouldn't, until y'all told me.
Well, after I seen this one on the agenda over the weekend, I thought about it. I was gonna ask the auditor's office because, actually it had Megan Lambright listed here, but, Tex, you or Megan can answer this question. Is there another copier declared surplus that may be possible of being used again?
In terms of replacing the one that we're talking about?
Well, no, so, say for another office.
I think all the copiers that are being used, it's a standard practice to have, they all have hard drives in them nowadays.
So I'm saying, do you
But-
have?
Are you talking about, like, you have another one, you have an office that needs another copier?
Yes.
I would have to check. I honestly have no
See if
idea.
there's a good.
Is this the one from Mark's office?
Yes.
If you could let us know, we could possibly use one.
Yeah, I mean, the
Another
Rico
office.
copy is old enough. I think they're replacing it because it needs to, it wouldn't be suitable for use in another office. I think if I understand correctly.
I think he's
For a
asking,
low-paced office, say for instance, like the county barn, we actually we bought a printer and we buy, these toner things that go in there, but it's a small scale printer, just to make copies of invoice and POs and bring them over here. But I think that if you had one of these bigger copies that was surplus that we're gonna get rid of or try to sell,
Right.
they actually would have a longer span of life for ink usage, and we can run more through it than what we're doing with this little.
Well, let me ask Mark.
So if y'all
what
had
was-
another one, some other office, just let me know.
I'll have to check if
What was
we've
the
made one
reason
surplus.
that one was getting pulled out?
Good morning. So that copier was 12 years old, and it's ghosting, so it's making shadows basically on the copies.
For
We don't-
official documents.
Right, so we
Yes.
didn't want to copy a birth certificate on it and charge somebody $23 basically
Yes.
for something that has shadows on it. So just. Right, I mean, the repair cost was almost half of what it was gonna cost to get a new one, and it's 12 years old. And there's no guarantee what they did to it would actually fix the problem. With that being said, just real quick while I'm up here, I did request the memory to be wiped from the hard drive. The gentleman who brought it in was, no offense, but he was a truck driver that brought the copier in, and so I was not confident that he knew exactly what he was doing. So I've contacted, as soon as I saw it on the agenda, I've been trying to get this done, and I saw him at our.
But we're talking about just copiers.
Right, yes, sir. And so I'd seen the rep at our meeting that we had here, district and county clerk meeting on the 31st of March, and I said, hey, I need somebody dispatched out that actually does this day in, day out to clear the memory before we transfer it out. And I emailed him again, I believe on Friday. And Megan and I talked about it, and I said, listen, I want somebody else to come out and make sure that that hard drive is actually clear, that the gentleman who brought it in, generally the person who delivers it doesn't go in and clear out the memory. So I wanted to do due diligence and make sure that the memory was clear before it left the office.
Okay.
Thank you.
Answer your question?
All right.
Well, yeah, I need to point out that, I don't know what standard they use for clearing it, but there are policies that dictate what we have to do to it, or we have to receive a certificate of destruction from whoever it is that did.
Well,
clear it.
we'll get with IT
Yeah.
if we start to do anything
I
with
appreciate
another
it.
copier.
Yeah, bring it
On
on.
this one, that alleviated that problem since we're transferring it to another office. But, Mr. Denman needs to know that if something later happens with this copier, we need to make sure that it's not given to somebody with that hard drive not being wiped.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Okay. I just wanted the court to be aware of that, because I sure wasn't.
I had no idea.
I wouldn't ever thought about it. All right, consider and take, let's see. So I'm gonna, ask that we, transfer that copier from the county clerk's office to, the Veteran Service Office. Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Okay.
Judge, if I may, I didn't hear all that citing. Would we make that contingent on the approval of IT being clear
It's going to another county office though. The Veterans Office is a county office.
And I understand that, but the problem I have is, we don't know who goes in there and uses it, if they know how to get it off the hard drive.
Birth certificates and stuff.
Okay, I understand.
Yes.
All right.
It would make me feel more comfortable, and then I see.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to amend the original motion since we voted on it, to include, the language to make sure that IT is verified that the information is wiped from that copier. Well, can y'all even do that? That's what I'm,
Right, again, I don't know how to do that and guarantee that it will be usable afterwards. You know what I mean? Because that's not, we don't service those copiers. So if we did, we'd have to have somebody from Rico come in and give us another hard drive or something. Or maybe we can do a hard drive swap. That's something that we could, hard drive swap would probably be the best thing if they're still servicing that model.
And I'm open to all options, I just don't want later to
how
come back.
about, if we amend the motion to verify that the county clerk's information is no longer on that copier? That work for you?
What if it
Before it
costs money? Is there
transfers to the
money
Veterans
available
Office?
to do that?
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to amend the original motion to add the words that, prior to the copier being transferred to the Veterans Service Office, that it be verified that the county clerk's information is no longer on the copier. Do I have a motion to amend?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so ordered. So, let's vote again on the original motion to, transfer the copier to, as amended to, the Veterans Service Office once it's verified that the county clerk's information is no longer on the copier. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is here update Judge McKinney and discuss repairs, maintenance, and construction projects for Anderson County buildings. I've got a split show here, Tex. I need to close that box. Where do I need to go? Display setting? All I need to do is close it. It's just I had to do it the other day. And just go to display settings or what? Yeah, I just need to close that, but I can't see it. Okay. Just hit OK. All right, I wasn't seeing that on the screen. Now, thank you. That's the only one it did that with. All right, just to kind of give y'all an update where we're at, maybe some things we need to address. I wanted to show you, James has been working with our guy to go in and strip and wax the floors. We did the courthouse. I think everybody likes it. It's been a while since they were kind of dull and unfinished, and we stripped and waxed the floors there. So I just wanted to kind of show you a picture of some of the things that we're doing. So it looks a lot better. Everybody's commented that the floors they look better, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I wanted to give you all an update. We spent about 4 days unstopping the toilets in the courthouse. And I want to show you because this is very frustrating for maintenance and for the plumbing company that was trying to help us do this, to figure out we had to run cameras and sensors down into our plumbing and figure out where the stoppage was. And you're gonna see that's the stoppage. Somebody flushed 2 Sprite bottles down the toilet. And it appears they came in through a restroom right above where the stoppage was, where drug testing was being done. And so we're thinking that somebody carried something in and decided to flush it. I can't prove that, but I'd like to find out if they did, who it was. Cause it were $4,400 later to get all that unstopped, and I wanna show you a couple pictures. We had to cut, that's been under our basement since 1912 or 13 when that courthouse was built without a problem. But this is what a Sprite bottle does for you. So they had to take a jackhammer and cut and break out the concrete in the basement in the boiler room and replace that Y. And let me go back one. Is that previous?
Second one.
Okay. This was coming from the men's room up above. Okay, so that was flowing. The stoppage was from right here up into that fitting is where those two Sprite bottles were caught up, okay? So the men's room was flowing, the ladies' room was not flowing, so. That was what was behind the Sprite bottles.
Oh, wow.
And we could not get through it. There was no way to do it without taking that jackhammer and breaking that out. So I thought y'all can visualize the frustration of all that. But it's clear now, okay? All right, one of the things we did was we restriped and marked the parking areas. They did a really good job over there. Everybody's, I've had some good comments on that. Everybody saying that they know where to park now. We got the judges parking, and then the law enforcement and the loading zone, and then handicap parking. There were vehicles in the way, so I didn't get a chance to take one of the handicap parking on the north side of the courthouse. And this is the south side of the courthouse. So just wanted to show you that. We're fixing to do the Agri-Life building on the striping. That's already quoted and approved, so, okay. On the annex, repairs to the flooring and repairs to the awning. It's like new out there. Boone & Boone did a good job. They spent about 3 or 4 days out there working on this. And we made, as you see, the other fur down came down about right there, so that we've got about another foot clearance. And I've told them that the deliveries need to be coming to the back of the building. We've got a ramp, and that's what the purpose was. I'm not sure why they started doing it out front. Maybe that'll keep from having another incident too. I had them put some drains in near and attach them to the storm drain. So, and they're working right now to try to put some gravel around this, dig out some of the dirt, put some gravel in so stuff didn't filter into the drain. But that way the flower beds don't fill up to the windows. And they weren't doing that, but just as a precaution, we went ahead and did it. This is the, of course, y'all saw that when you walked in. We put 4 coats and stripped and waxed this floor, the break room, and then the one up near the commissioners in the election office. We placed all this carpet. We spent the weekend while they were laying the carpet so we wouldn't have a disruption in the service. And so we don't have those wrinkles in the carpet anymore. And they did a really good job laying it. We didn't do it in the offices. They've seen that really well at all the door places, so I thought I'd show y'all that. This is the Frankston Annex. If y'all remember, the floors were dingy and we wasn't sure if we might have to even replace them, but it looks really good now. Kenneth, I don't know if you've been in there or not.
No, that's all right. Say this, it's like.
Margie was pretty happy. The girls were happy. I went by there and looked at it, and Margie sent me these pictures. So they went in there and completely stripped and waxed those floors and did a real good job. This is that multi-purpose room that they use for the elections, and they got that looking good. Bathrooms. Let's see. Elkhart Annex. I hadn't taken a final picture. I think Commissioner Chapin seen it, but I was trying to take some as the construction was going. If you remember, we had vinyl siding that was all broken and was bad all along the baseboard. So some of that stuff has been replaced. This insulation was not originally on it. It didn't have any insulation on the outside of the building. So now That should help a little with utility bills too, but,
You can find it, it's the same color as that sign, blue.
yeah.
It looks good though.
Yeah, Elkhart color, right?
Yes,
Okay, Elkhart blue. So, just one,
Gary.
this was with they put the hardy board siding on there, so
Right.
that's not gonna break like vinyl will. They did a real good job in installing that, so, Calvary Construction did that. One of the things, well, actually, a couple of things, we're still about to do the roof on the Veteran Service Office, but, people were not able to find it real well on Market Street. Well, I talked to TxDOT and asked them to put a sign there on Church Street, on 287 coming up the hill where you turn there. I talked to Vernon, district engineer, to ask him to do that. But I also had a sign made to put on the side of the building. And this tree's got a few limbs. You can see some hanging down. I asked Commissioner Mims if he would maybe help us with getting some limbs out of the way. So he's done, he's gonna try to do that. But, that way they can find them a little better. This is the AgriLife building. We got signage on both ends. Truman asked for some bigger signs. The Master Gardeners wanted a sign. You can see what the Master Gardeners have done in the flower beds and making that look really nice. And then that's the other end of the building. And we made two signs actually the same size to replace that smaller sign. We put all new faucets in the basement in the men's and the ladies' restrooms. We actually went under and made sure that some of the stops were not turning off like they should. So we got that done. This is the men's room. There's only two stalls. And what we tried to do is took the toilet out in this one stall here. And we're gonna take and replace this door and make this a 5-foot turning radius. I had the plumbing company go down there. We did a lot of measurement, make it ADA compliant. So actually we're gonna take out, this is the one against the wall. We're gonna take out the one to the left and put a larger door in. So this is the ladies. We've taken out the toilet in this stall. And we're gonna take the petition out, and maintenance staff, James told me that he and Val can do that. They're gonna put the larger door on the outside there. Of course, right now we're shut down there anyway, so. Just wanted to kind of there's the toilet we've taken out, so we could make a big wide stall for somebody wheelchair accessible. This is the lobby. Carpet looks really nice in there. Court had done that on both sides. This is the front lobby. You can see we've got the shades up in there that we purchased, and the sun was coming in. This is the east side. It was really bad there, and then that's the west end of the building. In the afternoon, it was really making it hot in there. Should help us a lot with utility bills there, okay? This is the access down to the stairs, just to show you the elevator shut down, and it says no, out of operation, so in case anybody was questioning that. This is a stairwell downstairs. This is a multi-purpose room, where they're doing their training and things like that we were talking about earlier, okay? This is the Master Gardener's office, and then out to the stairwell. And then, of course, that's the elevator, okay? Let's see. All right, I put the Civic Center on there. I thought Commissioner Mims asked me to, about trying to work towards doing something with the Civic Center. We've had so many projects, I really hadn't had a chance to do a whole lot about that, except I've talked to some people, and I'm just gonna throw some ideas out here. And I've kind of got some questions from the court too, but, with the AgriLife building, and I'm thinking election office. I've been talking to Casey, and it's hard for them to stay set up. The election machines are locked in the 2 jail cells back there. So basically for election integrity, we've locked those down for maintaining the election machines and the boxes after the election. So that's a good thing. The only thing is, as we grow and we're getting more machines, she has to set up in 103B to get all ready for the election. And then you know, 103 and 103A if it's a countywide election, okay? So, I'm thinking if we want to take, we've got the Civic Center, we own it, we've got a huge parking lot, okay? So, I guess I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, we do need, it wouldn't hurt to have some conference rooms to take and be able to have a big meeting, 500 people with some breakout sessions or something. But also, I don't wanna see us just do a conference center. We got the money, I'm just talking, so, we've got money in COs that's sitting there to do something with. We've got the Agri-Life building, we have problems with. So, I'm thinking, we also, kind of where we were 16 years ago, running out of office space again. District clerk's office is very crowded in there. Some of the other offices are crowded. We don't really have any more room to expand. This building's lasted, if we didn't have it, we'd really been in bind. So, I'm thinking if we could combine the two ideas, maybe have some conference rooms with breakout sessions for big meetings, but at the same time, have an election office with a secured storage for election machines and ballots. And to work on election integrity, making sure that people have confidence in what we're doing there. And then the other thing is maybe we could look at either other offices that could move out there, courts, whatever. I'm open to suggestion on that. But I'm thinking we need to look at trying to address our growth at the same time. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. But for the elections, right now, we could use these others for Truman to have his meetings in, or do officer training or whatever, but we can't do it because of the election. But Casey's, pretty frustrated that it's hard to set up and get ready for these elections. And she could have one of the multi-purpose rooms to do for elections, so you could use it when you weren't using it for elections, you could schedule meetings in there. So I'm thinking that's some ideas I wanted to throw out, okay? But I didn't know anything about what was going on. Hit the lights again. But I do have some questions, and I'd kind of like to see out there at the Civic Center. What happened? Why is there 20 loads of dirt in our Civic Center?
They was doing bore testing on the, they had to bore all that underground stuff before they could even go in there and figure out what they could do with that slope. That slope is going away regardless of whatever the situation is there again. It's not accessible, ADA accessible unit, so the architect, the engineers that we were dealing with, they required for that boring machine to go in and drill. And they've got about 8 to 10 spots in there where they cored that building to see the stability of the soil content under it. We tried to get them to do it out beside it, but the engineers said that they just wouldn't accept that in the drawings.
I'm not understanding. Did the court approve putting all that dirt in there? I just.
Well, it was Robert had called and said that they have to get in and get off that stage and there was no way to get into it but the back door.
Well, I saw that there's a dirt ramp built outside. Mm-hmm. And I remember, that was back in, late 21 or something. I saw some dirt being put back there when I was traveling to Van Zant and Henderson County. I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't get to look at the building until recently.
How many loads of dirt it took to get them off that stage, but that can all be removed out of there. That right there is what's in what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's.
I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 loads or something to ramp them down. They went inside and they bored it.
Well, the stage is tore up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think initially, Judge, the plan was to flatten that whole area there and make it one big, conference room, and they were gonna try to level off that floor, so I think they need to see that. But what, I think during the midst of everything just coming to a standstill, as I came to you and asked you, you know, Judge, I know that you were kinda on the fence about the project. I think it's something needed, and I know,
Well,
I mean,
I'm
you
not
sit there and talked about
I'm not
these other
against it.
offices.
Yeah.
Even before the election, I told you, I'm not against something.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
I just wanna.
You want the information?
More information,
Yeah,
and the
what's-
other thing is we needed to develop a plan that was gonna be
That's right.
beneficial. And I see that if the people of the county see that we're doing something beneficial to address our growth, I mean, there's a huge parking lot there with lights, and it's all, I mean, that's a huge expense too.
With additional 5 acres added to it, so I mean. it's
Yeah, and I
5
didn't know
more.
about that until.
See, I told you that, because you
I know.
didn't know that we had the whole 10 acres now.
This
Add
is
5
what I,
acres.
okay.
So,
But the
But let me
stage
say-
and the one act play, that, you know, the way that thing was presented, the way it is there, you know, that pretty much, I think everybody agreed that that's not gonna exist anymore.
So,
You know, so the
so
way they done,
who put the dirt in there?
I did.
Okay.
Precinct 1 hauled the dirt up there for at Robert's request to get the company in. We had nothing to do with any of the rest of the, boring. You see the bore sites going up through there?
Yeah.
That boring company, they went in there, they brought this track machine in. They did
Where's
all-
the boring sites at?
They're going up that hallway where the carpet's torn up, and I think you see those white patches,
What are you talking about?
on the floor or
Oh,
something.
well, those white patches, that was when they had a jury out there. I
Okay.
remember, was it the Hudson, the
But-
Capital Murray case, they used that?
You're
for
talking
the-
about on the chairs, I'm talking about
Yeah.
on the floor, see? I don't know,
Those-
without
No,
seeing.
that's paper, that's those papers.
Okay, well, going up
Right
that
there.
floor, where you see that dirt dug up as you go up that rake of that floor, that's where the bore sites are. You know, I went in there when they was boring and looked down, watched them. They had that big machine boring and taking those soil samples. And
Where's the seats at?
they've been just destroyed, hauled off, whatever. I think there's some of them at my precinct. You know, we got about 3 rows of them there. There was, I thought, some churches, different ones, you know, cause we put them in the auction, remember? Tried to sell them, they wouldn't bring $1.
So they didn't get sold in the auction?
No, so we tried, and we put them on the auction site to sell them, and they didn't bring anything. So we declared them, I guess, surplus for that, and then, you know, haul them to scrap or donate them to, you know, I think the Ag Play people here in Palestine was wanting some of them, you know, to donate them to them, you know, stuff like that, just to get them out of there.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at, there's about 200 to 300 chairs missing out of there. And specific rows were taken out. See, A to Z and double A to double L,
Well, they took,
15 and 16 are all gone.
yeah, they took all that out so that machine could build that ramp going down in there. I mean, they took out just what happened to be taken out.
And then, see, so that, they connect to the other chairs. The 2 that I guess I saw, those are standalone all the way up to the top. And then on the other side, you got A to Z and double A to double L from 29 to 30, all the way up to the top. Okay? And see, they're unconnected from the rest of the seats, so it makes them where you can't use them. And it looks like they were unbolted.
You had to unbolt them from the floor to get them up. And I guess, I mean, no matter what we decided.
Who did that?
Some of my precinct workers helped, and some of the guys that went in there and did the board and was moving what they had to move to get out of the way. But those chairs, I guess, you know, I mean, they're obviously,
So they got letters and numbers on them.
but they're all coming out.
See, that's E28, I think.
Yeah, under the plans of that, you know, process, they were all coming out to be basically hauled to scrap.
Okay. C29, that was in there. see that whole row? See, my mouse will go. That whole row is disconnected. And that makes these seats where you can't connect them to anything, to have the end rows. These are, as you see, those two stand up by themselves, and then you connect these to them.
Well, the bid that we got, you know, when it come in and it was too excessive for what we accepted, they had come in just to take those out and to haul them off, you know, or, you know, the structure part of it,
But
to tear out.
see, there's double A on the other, this is 28. No, there's 13 and 14, and then across the aisle, 15 and 16 are gone.
Well, our plan, it falls back to what you brought up about the building, the agriculture building. We did hire an architect on this to give us some advice on what to do. One of the things that they do was get a core sample of that building. So that's what they had to do to get their core sample. We was not planning on keeping any of them seats because that auditorium style building is not what we anticipate the county needed for meeting rooms. So wasn't concerned with what happened to the seats because we were concerned what happened to the building. And we did hire an architect to come in and tell us what was best for the building. We give them our ideas, yet when they come back with a cost for the new building, it was way more expensive than what we ever what
No,
was
I
told to start.
remember that.
So the seats at the time, the seats are gonna be gone. So it don't matter if it's A seat, B seat, L seat, they removed what they had to move to drill the holes to get our core
See, this is my other
samples.
question, Commissioner. Those are the, look at those seats right there.
What do you, I mean, what are we gonna do with
Okay,
the seats?
Just a second, okay? There's 29 and 30, those are the missing seats. See that E29? I found the seats. The seats are at Anderson County Livestock Exchange in Elkhart.
They did get some of the seats.
Did we sell them the seats?
I'll have to look at
Did
that.
they buy it at auction?
They did not buy it at auction, no, sir.
Okay.
Because we didn't sell them at auction, it didn't sell it, so we was trashing the seats.
See all the different letters and numbers? There's 180 seats at Anderson County Livestock Exchange, or right at it.
And where's that at?
Elkhart.
That's at
I know
Elkhart.
where we're at though.
That's
It's
in
the
the
livestock
auditorium.
auction at Elkhart. Oh, I got one more to show you. Cause I was wondering who owned that. It's- And, you know, I think we all thought somebody else owned it. So I looked at the appraisal district. See Anderson County Livestock Exchange? And the real owner is Quasar Data Center Ltd. Hang on just a second. Bring it up. Well, it's not populating up here, just a second.
Did you get that water from Lisa? Huh? In the refrigerator.
can't get it to come up on the screen. But I've got the Anderson County Appraisal District, account number R00233357. And it shows Quasar Data Center LTD, 1001 Texas Texas Street, Suite 310, Houston, Texas. And it shows that it's Anderson County Livestock Exchange is what they own. That's on both of those documents, which I have. So, I just.
We'll just have to check and see. I don't know, I didn't make the arrangements for anybody to get any of them. I got them in the deal. I took the 2 rows of them just to my county barn to replace some of my bench seats. But they're still in our process of our ordering. I just took them and sent them in our shop. We tried to sell them, but I'd have to ask, I guess, Robert about how he had access to go in and pick the seats up.
So, how did our seats, along with the citizens of Anderson County, get an Anderson County Livestock Exchange, and this court did no action to approve that transfer of that county property? That's what I'm asking. Because there was no break-in. There's truck tracks all over there. Of course, you said your people did all the dirt work.
Yeah, they were piled outside.
And they undid the seats. You said that a while ago.
Yes, and we filed them outside for sure. And for sure, and then I'd have to ask, I guess, and see what arrangements he made with Robert, or whether he even made arrangements to pay a way price for whatever they bring. Because that's the only thing left to do is to haul them to the scrap.
So you're saying Robert Johnson made the arrangements for this?
I'd have to ask him, I did not, so I don't know.
Well, somebody did.
Yes, sir, well, I did not.
I know, I did not.
I didn't know. I chaired
I did talk to the man.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I did talk to the man at the Palestine Plate, theater. I don't know if he ever went and got in there or not. I'd have to go over and look and see.
Okay.
But Robert said we could give them to him because, what it was.
Robert said you could give them to who?
The theater people here, donate them. You could
But
donate
the
them.
court still has to do that.
Did you donate them to like a church or?
Civic organization.
I don't know if they qualify as that or not. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I just was curious. All right, not a good situation. All right, let's move on to item number 26. Consider to take action on approving an additional $745 for installation of a generator pad for Montalva Water to be paid from Anderson County Rescue Plan Funds Act. Is that within their budget?
This was originally approved on Commissioners Court January 22nd of 2021 for the pad, and it was only for $1,655, which was the estimate. And then they came back last week with the actual cost of $2,400 for the reimbursement. So then that's an additional $745.
This is just the additional.
Yes, sir.
Everything else has been approved.
Yes, sir. So just the additional for the generator pad of $745.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Chapin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. Item number 27, consider and take action on a price increase for meal services for the Anderson County Jail from Five-Star Correctional Services effective May 1st, 2023. This is based on a price predetermination for the Consumer Price Index for urban consumers. Sheriff Flores.
Good morning. We anticipated a budget increase due to normal increase in food and allowed for about 10%. They are asking for an 8% increase. The current budget will absorb that.
Okay. Did everybody get a copy of the?
Yes, sir, we got it here.
This is what we got.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Okay. So that's the new prices on the right on that right column?
Yes.
The old prices, it's just I guess, inflation?
We all know eggs and milk and everything is going up, so this reflects the total cost of groceries and feeding the inmates.
What percent did you say it was, Sheriff?
8%.
8%. Really surprised at that. It's not higher than that.
Probably, yeah, with eggs and everything else, $8 a dozen and everything. My chickens are a lot more worth than what they used to be. All right, anybody got any questions about that? I'll entertain a motion to approve the price increase for five-star correctional services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Chapin, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Judge, before you adjourn, we'll go back to item, 25. I know you mentioned about the buildings and you brought up the, Civic Center.
Yes, sir.
When, I came to you for the Civic Center, is because I have a group of realtors and other people in the community asking about the project. And,
Right, yeah, I
hotel
understand that.
stuff and all that other stuff, I wasn't aware or involved in any of that. I just want that to be out there.
Okay. I understand.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dixon, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered. We're adjourned.
Yes, sir.